Well, I'd say good morning, but I'm not a liar. Hi. We'll do this. This will be fun. It's always a lot of fun. Like, you know what? You got to do it for a few hours yesterday, and then you're like, oh, I get to do more of it. More of it. Really all week. Other than Wednesday. We're going to take a break and do our college basketball preview show, which...
Perfect timing.
Got to tell you, kind of wish we could do the whole week. Really? In hindsight, maybe we should have dragged it out across 5 days. That would have been pleasant. Hi, it's me. I'm Glenn Clark. He's Griffin. This is GCR. You know the drill. The Ravens lost. We did Project Game Day. Worked some of it out during Project Game Day. If you missed it, then later on today, I would never choose me over me. Just not my style. So later today, when I'm not competing against myself, then go watch or listen to the Project Game Day postgame show. Myself, Rita, Femi, Griffin, we were all there hanging out. Unpleasant. Breaking it all down. We do it every game day all season long. We'll be back in action this Sunday following Ravens-Broncos. Come over and hang out with us. PressBoxOnline.com/game day for Project Game Day. And hopefully it'll be more pleasant. I can't promise, but hopefully that'll be the case. Coming up on the program today, we're going to chat with Joe Fortenbaugh from ESPN Radio. Last week, before the Ravens even lost, he was banging the drum about their need to make some moves. I can't imagine that's gotten quieter. Femi will check back in. We'll also catch up with our friend Dan Wilcox. Dan, normally a more positive person when it comes to the Ravens. We'll see. Femi's funny because Femi, it's okay for Femi to criticize, but your criticisms, he's not tolerating those. It's a very fine line. You gotta be around him. I love the guy. I love him. I don't think he doesn't mean that to me, but he'll get going about something, and then he'll remember like, no, I love the Ravens. I'm not putting up with it from you. Love Femi. Also this morning, we will check in with Jeremy Conn as we do every Monday. And it's Monday, so we are going to give away a $50 gift card to Costas Inn, which, look, man, if they're going to lose, you might as well get $50 to Costas Inn, put it towards a crab tower, just some delicious cream of crab soup, maybe just some steamed crabs over at the Costas Inn. Whatever it is, you can improve your week. Everybody else is having a depressing week. You can improve yours by getting $50 to the Costas Inn. All you got to do is participate in slaps to the helmet. It's the same thing as when they win. We just do it in the opposite way. 5 Ravens most deserving of scorn for their performance in the loss to the Browns yesterday. 2 must be offensive players, 2 must be defensive players. The 5th can be a special teams player, a coach, another offensive player, another defensive player, and no shortage of options yesterday. Really difficult. We'll get to it. I don't want to give it all away right now. But rank them 5-1 with number 1 being your anti-man of the match. Get him to me at Glenn Clark Radio. Anyone who does will be registered to win a $50 gift card to the Costas Inn. There's nothing new that I feel from yesterday to today. I'm in a strange place where I don't know how much of what happened yesterday is predictive. I keep falling back on the comparison to the Steelers game from a year ago. It's closer to anomaly than it is predictive. That said, the defensive issues don't end at their inability to catch the football. That had been part of the storyline going into yesterday's game, but a small part of the storyline. It had been, at best, a subplot. Hey, they could have had more interceptions if Nate Wiggins in particular had hung on to the football. Yesterday didn't have Marlon Humphrey or Nate Wiggins on the field. It was always going to be a more uphill climb for the secondary. You were asking a lot. Plus, they finally made the decision to bench Marcus Williams, which it's a funny thing that we do where we're all like, yeah, you can't keep putting that guy out there. And then the moment that it goes wrong for the other guy, they're like, what the hell are they doing? Can't win. But it was always going to be an uphill climb for those two to be out in particular That's the highest end of your defensive back group. Marlon Humphrey, the best overall player. Nate Wiggins, the highest ceiling, perhaps, of anyone in that group. That said, if it was just about, and again, I think it's the biggest story of yesterday, win or loss. I guess we'll try to do 5 plays tomorrow. I don't know. Well, I guess. Win or loss, just telling the story, did they win or did they lose the game? The biggest story is probably the fact that they dropped interceptions. And, the football offensively too. Plays that were there to be made were not made. That's almost certainly the biggest story. But it's not the only story. And that's the problem that we're feeling about the defense. The reason why it's a crazy thing, and I'll never believe this about Baltimore sports fans. They want to fire a coach, in this case the defensive coordinator, which in fairness, we haven't done that nearly as much in the history of our city. It's been much lower on the list of coaches that we've wanted to fire over the years. The reason why we're there, well, I'm not. I say we. That's unfair. I certainly don't think that Zach Orr should be fired.
Tweet it out, Glenn Clark once.
No, let's not do that. Let's not do that because it would not be true.
Zach Orr's time is up.
No, and it's absurd. I mean, anybody who's actually suggesting he be fired, it's absurd. I mean, my God, man. Like, stop. You just don't do this 8 games in. You can have a conversation at some point about whether or not he was the correct hire, but what you don't do is you don't fire someone 8 games in. That said, the reason why it can't entirely be dismissed as anomaly what happened yesterday is because the lack of pressure isn't new. And yes, it's been propped up by a sack total that makes you say, well, I don't know, maybe it's not so bad. One of the more alarming stats that I saw yesterday was the one that was shared out by Jonas Schaefer. I can't really escape that one. Sorry, this is where a professional would be more prepared. But you tuned into Glenn Clark Radio, so you knew damn well what you were getting, and I don't have to apologize.
Semi-pro, right?
Yeah, close. Jonas, of course, in the Baltimore Banner, said opposing QBs are getting an average of 3.96 seconds to throw on 3rd and long. That's 7+ yards. Against the Ravens this season. That's the worst mark for any team in the past decade, per True Media. And almost a half-second slower than the second worst, which is 3.52 seconds. Now, I get that is looking at something very specifically, which is 3rd and long. And someone might say, hey, in 3rd and long, perhaps you're choosing to play more coverage. Perhaps. But even if you're choosing to play more coverage, you would like to believe that you have someone that can, win a matchup. Get in the backfield, disrupt the play. We're going to need this to be lifted up by the guys we drafted and we believed in. Made you feel good at a point earlier this season. At a point earlier this season, I definitely said the words, I think David Ajabo and Odafe Owe are doing enough for me to feel comfortable with that group. Hi, Glenn Clark. Village idiot. Noted doofus. Guy who doesn't know his ass from a hole in the wall. Hello. That's me. As I say constantly, I'm going to be wrong. I've been wrong. I'm going to be wrong in the future. And clearly, I was dramatically wrong. It was one of those things that felt good for a moment, and then, you kept seeing it, and you realized, no. To the point where, obviously, David Ajabo was a healthy scratch. Yeah. Appreciate everybody giving us the reminder about the David Ajabo versus George Pickens decision from a couple years ago. Feels good, don't it? Look, I don't think yesterday was indicative of what the Ravens are overall. In part because I think in most cases, if a game is going to be close, you're the team that has Lamar Jackson, you're going to go win. And truth be told, I'm still a little surprised by the fact that Lamar Jackson got the ball back at the end of the game and didn't go win. I get that they were unfavorable circumstances, and I'm not by any I'm not blaming Lamar Jackson. But that's kind of what this team's going to have to do. And that's a tough, I don't like walking this line is bad because then somebody says, oh, you watch that game and you think it's Lamar Jackson's fault? No, not even remotely. What I think is that's not going to be the last time that the Ravens are going to be in that type of situation. And you're going to be asked to win a game like that. And that's not fair. And I think the Ravens need to be aggressive in trying to limit how many times that's the case. But I also think they have to go win. Zay Flowers needed to get out of bounds, so they didn't have to waste a timeout. He didn't. There needed to be better protection. There wasn't. It's a lot of things. But they also needed to catch the football when they had the opportunities to catch the football, and they didn't do that. This is where they are. Sometimes you lose games. I know that's a loser mentality, as people like to say on the internet, but, the reality is you're going to lose games. And if they hadn't lost 2 to start the season, if they hadn't lost the Raiders game, for example, they're sitting at 6-2, all's good. It's the fact that they now fall back to 5-3. They're 3 games and a tiebreaker behind the Kansas City Chiefs. Essentially, and it sucks, the number 1 seed's out of play. Be as real about it as we can. You're 3 games and a tiebreak behind. You are functionally 4 games back with half a season left. It would take Patrick Mahomes getting hurt. Really. And even that isn't a guarantee. It would take a Patrick Mahomes injury for the Ravens to be able to get the 1 seed. The 1 seed is off the table. It's a bummer because you'd like to bring the AFC Championship game back to Baltimore and have a chance to exercise those demons. And by the way, just because you're not the 1 seed doesn't mean that you can't host the AFC Championship game. There is no law that says that the team that does end up being the 1 seed can end up, losing. But it don't seem likely. That's okay. The Ravens have never won a Super Bowl winning an AFC Championship game at home. They've won 2 Super Bowls without hosting an AFC Championship game. But for all intents and purposes, the 1 seed is gone. It was thin to begin with. But at this point, and it sucks to say, but there's no practical way to believe that you're still in play for the 1 seed, barring a complete collapse from the Kansas City Chiefs. A team that doesn't really seem likely to have a, complete collapse. They're not even all that good, and they still haven't lost a game. The division is a different conversation altogether. And even if the Steelers win tonight, as I think most of us believe they will, the good news is the Ravens control their own destiny within the division. They still have 2 games to play against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So even if you get to the end of this weekend and you're a game behind, it doesn't really matter because you control that. Not sure if you paid attention to recent Ravens-Steelers history, but it's been weird AF, and despite the Ravens being a dramatically better football team, they haven't really beat the Steelers. Some of that is gobbledygook. Some of that is like what happened at the end of the season last year where, the Ravens weren't playing their players. Some of it has been Wednesday afternoon football games where you didn't – like I get that there's been a bit of silliness. Last year's game in Pittsburgh was quite silly, similar to yesterday's game. Nobody wanted to catch the football. But weird thing, they haven't beat the Steelers. So that's going to be in focus now moving forward. Lamar Jackson's going to have to start. He still, in his career, has not played well in a win over the Steelers. It's the damnedest thing. Lamar Jackson, everything he's done, and he's done a lot, 7 years in, has still not played well in a win over the Steelers. It's unbelievable. That's going to have to change. No, I think there's good reason to believe it can change. But the Steelers have a really good defense. And yes, the other part of what happened yesterday is bringing the trade deadline back into focus. And it's where my column goes today at PressBoxOnline.com, and you've heard all of it. Micah Parsons' name was thrown around a little bit more yesterday. I don't think we know exactly what the story is there. Is he Is he injured because he doesn't have a contract? Or is he injured? And this is one of those things that, like, it's impossible to know because if it's the former, they're never going to say it. I don't know what to make of that situation. They didn't put him on IR. They clearly didn't expect him to be out this long. And nobody seems to have any reporting about whether or not it's worse and he might not play, or maybe he'd be willing to play if somebody else wanted to give him a deal. I don't know. I heard his name being thrown around yesterday. I think because the Cowboys were playing on Sunday Night Football and we were all watching. I maintain the most likely scenario, Jadeveon Clowney or something of that ilk. I don't know if the Ravens losing to the Browns means the Browns suddenly say, well, maybe we're not so cooked after all. We'll let Jameis Winston go out and keep throwing the ball to the other team all season and see if maybe they don't want to catch it either. It's the damnedest thing about, like, Jameis Winston, good for him. He deserves the fun national attention he'll get this week. Everyone who watched that game knows Jameis Winston did everything in his power to let the other team win the game. He did exactly what Jameis Winston does. He's going to throw the ball a ton. He'll complete a good number of them. He's going to throw the ball a ton to the other team too. And not even 50-50 balls.
He'll throw it right at him.
This wasn't the story of yesterday wasn't the Ravens losing on 50-50 balls. They were losing on 99-1 balls. Like, I don't know what a grader would give Jameis Winston for yesterday because I don't know how that system works. Like, do you ignore the balls thrown?
Yeah.
Like, do you just consider those neutral, incomplete passes, or do you? Because it seems like you could only grade Jameis Winston particularly well in like a results neutral.
There's supposed to be a turnover-worthy throws stat.
Okay, well there should have been a boatload of those.
Probably at least 6 or 7.
Yeah. My God. Like, an actual grade for Jameis Winston yesterday would not be as good as the stat line would suggest. The grade would have to incorporate the number of awful throws. And again, if those balls are intercepted, then he can't build the stat line of yards and touchdowns that he ultimately ends up building because he doesn't have the ball as much. I don't think the Browns are going to suddenly turn things around because I think Jameis Winston is going to be Jameis Winston, which is to say he will have games where he'll throw for 340 yards. But he's going to keep throwing the ball to the other team. It's what he does. And he did it. He conspired. He was happy yesterday to be a part of it. The Ravens just had no interest. They're like, nah, we're out. given their cap situation, the Ravens were probably always going to try to wait until the week of the deadline to make a move. Just for the prorated salary cap consequences. Like, they don't have a ton of cap flexibility. They need the numbers to come in as small as possible. The likelihood was always going to be the Ravens were going to keep waiting until close to the deadline, as close as possible, to make moves, if they're going to make them. And I still don't think that it's going to be a blockbuster move. It's not Ravens-like, but I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. If there was a time to do something un-Ravens-like, this is the time. And I do think it's fair, as can you look at the defense and say, with confidence, we can win a Super Bowl with this group? And I get it. Yesterday, included two guys that weren't playing that are really important. And now we'll see how things look for their defensive line, which obviously came into the season with great depth and an unquestionable strength for this football team, but suddenly is very thin. And you want to be mad at Zach Orr? I'm not even telling you not to be mad at Zach Orr. I think the one area that's fair has been scheming pressure. Like, it's clearly Mike Macdonald clearly has an advantage in scheming pressure that other coaches don't seem to have. I've poked around about it a little bit, and one of the responses I've got back is, well, there's probably a reluctance to do that given what their back end looks like. Maybe fair. They just got Arthur Millette, who was a big part of that for Mike Macdonald last year, back.
And he was on a pitch count yesterday.
So I don't know if maybe moving forward with Arthur Millette, that'll be something that Zach Orr,
assuming a healthy, Marlon and Wiggins
will incorporate a little bit more. But that I do think is a fair criticism of Zach Orr. I don't know how to criticize him over the plays were there to be made. They just weren't made. Not necessarily in the backfield with pressure. Those plays weren't necessarily there. It wasn't a case of missing sacks. They missed tackles in the run game. They didn't really miss sacks. The pressure just wasn't there.
They didn't have many opportunities.
It just didn't happen. But downfield, the plays were absolutely there to be made.
Is there something to talk about with the Marcus Williams benching? Is this should they have taken a step back and be like, is this the week to do it when we're not going to have our top two corners?
I don't know what.
And bring in
if
two,
I'm being
you're gonna
fair,
have Darius Washington. And
how do you expect Marcus Williams to help?
Just I don't know, some sort of comfortability that Kyle Hamilton has with him. And
have you noticed any of that? Like, this is my issue. I get it. I get the thought process, but I don't know why you would think anything would be better with Marcus Williams on the field. The only argument you can make is, well, he's the one that's getting paid more, so he's got to be the okay. Y'all were the same ones yelling about this. I really am not hearing the Marcus Williams topic this week. My gut would also say there's probably more to the story than that. That's just my gut, than just the way that he's performed. Because, from a body standpoint, you would think that you could use as many bodies as you possibly can. So my gut probably says there's a little bit more going on there, but they're not going to let us in on that. Marcus Williams has been awful. I know the other guy was awful. We'll get to that. But Marcus Williams has been awful. I don't know why we're going to sit here and try to pretend like the story would be different with Marcus Williams on the field. It hasn't been different. There's nothing to me that says Marcus Williams is going to make the plays that weren't made yesterday. But he is getting paid a lot. I guess I do understand that. All right, we got a lot to do. When we come back in, Joe Fortenbaugh from ESPN will join us, talk about what they could or could not do at the deadline. A lot happening. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Hey Baltimore, it's number 10, Arthur Millette, and I'm hoping you'll slot us in all season long for the Arthur Millette Show. We will be traveling around the region all season, giving you the chance to get to know me and my teammates. There will be some football talk and a lot more. You can watch this show live on Pressbox's Facebook and YouTube pages and listen every Friday night on 105.7 The Fan. Find out more at PressBoxOnline.com/Millette. The Arthur Millette Show, the only show in town that's a work of art.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
Back in here on GCR. If you haven't picked up the print issue of Press Box yet, get to your neighborhood Royal Farms right now and do that very thing, because it won't last forever. You see the Baltimore-built duo, Derek Queen, Julian Reese on the cover. Great cover story from Brooks Dubose, all about their reunion in College Park, the two former St. Francis teammates. Also inside this issue, lots of college hoops. You meet players from the D1 men's and women's programs around the region, and so much more. A print issue of Press Box is available, and you could use something to distract you from football this week, so maybe a little college hoops. Go pick it up for free today at your neighborhood Royal Farms. Again, you can read it all. PressBoxOnline.com for the print issue of Press Box. All right, we continue along. Yes, Ravens coming off a brutal loss in Cleveland yesterday. Even before that loss, I saw this guy last week as the AFC teams. It's been an arms race. They were loading up, and he thought the Ravens needed to load up. And I'm going to guess that certainly didn't change based on their result in Cleveland yesterday. You know him from ESPN Radio and Carlin versus Joe. You know him from all the betting shows and the betting content he does with ESPN as well. He's Joe Fortenbaugh, and he's with us now here on GCR. Joe, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Oh, Glenn, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. I know we tried to get something done last week. I apologize. The schedule got messy, but I do appreciate the opportunity to come on with you guys today. Thank you so much.
Brother, I know how this works, and you're a busy man. Appreciate you making the time whenever it is. Joe, I wholly agree with you to begin with, and I don't know that necessarily they needed to be in on any of these wide receivers that have been dealt as much as they clearly need, say, an edge rusher. But one of the things that I've been saying broadly for weeks, I have great appreciation, Joe, for the Ravens, the way that they have done their business over the years. The fact that they have always said, we're not going all in on any one year. We think draft picks matter. We think it's important to have players at that lower salary cap numbers. We are not just going to be the team since 2001 that's going to light draft picks on fire in the name of trying to win in one particular year. I appreciate that, and they've been really good. And every year they've had a healthy quarterback, they've mattered in December and into January, and that's been great business for us. All that being said, given their recent playoff failures, given just how much of a monster the Kansas City Chiefs are, it feels like if there's ever been a year for them to suddenly say, maybe this year's the year we need to change our philosophy a bit, it feels like this would be the year to do it.
Very well said. You know, there is something to the first part about that with the way the organization conducts its business and the way they do that in a consistent manner, because on one hand, what we're about to do is point to the playoff utility and say, you need to make a change, you need to make an adjustment. But on the other hand, look at the Jets, look at the Cowboys, look at some of these clown show operations out there that have no idea what you're doing, and realize because of your organizational philosophy, you're not one of them. You're consistently in it. You're consistently putting yourself in a position to compete for championships. I'd imagine Baltimore fans get frustrated when they see what they see in the playoffs, but again, you are one of the gold standards in the NFL because you get the job done every year to an extent. So that's the great thing. But on the other side, you also have to ask yourself this. It turns out you have a generational talent at quarterback. Like, this isn't just like an above-average quarterback. This isn't a guy who's really, really good. Like, he's trending towards the potential of landing a third MVP. And while his playoff shortcomings are well documented, that's on you to put him in a better position to succeed in the postseason, which is why you go out and you break from the norm and you maximize what you can get right now, because you got a rival in the division named the Pittsburgh Steelers who are experiencing life without Ben Roethlisberger. Like, when you have the generational talent at quarterback and he eventually leaves, look at the New England Patriots, look at what will eventually happen to Kansas City. Like, you want to maximize this window for all it's worth. And I'll tell you another thing. I know we all love the Derrick Henry signing. He is not good enough to compensate for the massive drop-off to Justin Tucker and the defense from last year. Y'all came up short last year with a great defense. This ain't a great defense. Y'all came up short last year with one of the best kickers the NFL's ever known. He ain't the same guy this year. So Henry's a great addition, but it's not to overcompensate for those two big deficiencies you're staring at right now, because that pass defense is not winning a Super Bowl.
I tend to agree. I would even also add into that, like, I don't know how long Derrick Henry can do this. Like, and maybe the answer, he's that much of an alien, and he is going to defy all logic and going to be looking like Derrick Henry until he's 35. That said, you signed him for 2 years. Like, you have, even if he performs at this level for both years, he's still only under contract for 2 years. Like, this moment has to matter to try to take advantage of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Let's assume that he continues to play at this all-world level the whole way, which is going to be very hard to do late in the year, but we'll assume that. Again, the pass defense is still one of the worst in the NFL, and Justin Tucker is not the guy he used to be. Those are two very big problems when you're talking about winning playoff games with the smallest of margin for error. People keep looking at Kansas City and they say they're not as good as last year. And people are right. They're not as good as last year. But the thing is, they create very small windows for you to beat them. And no one's been able to take advantage of those windows. I think it's like 5 one-score wins they've had so far.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are really good at letting you make one more mistake than they make, and that's how they win football games. And when your kicker's shakier than he's been in years and your pass defense is shakier than it's been in years, that gives them all the window they need to get past you.
Joe, is the answer to you then trying to dip your toes into, say, like Max Crosby waters, and if you got to pay 2 first-round picks, then the hell with it, you go ahead and pay those 2 first-round picks because we're talking about Max Crosby?
I don't know if I'm going that big, and I don't think the Ravens would go that big, but I think there needs to be a way that they address in some way, shape, or form. Like, look at Buffalo. Buffalo looked around at the AFC in a year where Buffalo looked content to say, you know what, we're going to spend a year getting the salary cap in order, and then we might get aggressive another year. Buffalo realized they're in it. They're in it. So they made a cheap play to bring in Amari Cooper. Great business. The Chiefs realize they have a problem at wide receiver. They make a cheap deal to bring in DeAndre Hopkins. Is Hopkins elite? No, but it's a guy that can help you. Baltimore needs to get someone that can help them. The question is, do you address a concern, which is the pass defense, for example, or do you say to yourself, look, there's nothing we can do to upgrade this problem in defense. Let's go ahead and just become as dominant as an offense as possible. Let's call about Cooper Kupp. Let's call about some of these other wide receivers who may be on the move, and let's put so many weapons in place for Lamar Jackson, he can't possibly fail like he failed in the past. Because I'll tell you something, as good as Bateman can look at times, watching that ball smash off his face mask yesterday reminds everybody exactly who he is when you need him in the big spot.
Joe Fortenbaugh with us, of course, from ESPN here on Glenn Clark Radio. Joe, this is a tough one for me, right? Because the flip side of the argument that somebody makes about the offense, and we heard this when Devontae Adams' name was being bandied about, was, well, the offense is good. Like, don't rock the boat. Don't do anything that messes with that. And my response is always like, one, if adding in a good football player is what rocks the boat, then you've got bigger problems. Like, if you can't take on a good player and do that, but also, injuries do happen after the trade deadline as well. And at the minimum, I would say you have a depth issue at wide receiver for this football team because you have at most like 2 1/4 that you trust. So I hear exactly what you're saying. It's one of those tough things for me when I keep watching them generate no edge rush whatsoever, where I say, I feel like that's the one, and it's been a prolonged problem post-Terrell Suggs. And as crazy as it sounds and as un-Ravens-like as it is, I feel like if there was a time to say, hey, let me see if I can go pay 2 first-round picks, I would go there because it's a problem that you've had. You haven't had a difference-making edge rusher in almost a decade at this point in Baltimore.
Yeah. And that makes great sense as well. And if you got aggressive, like, let's look at it like this. There are ways to view the AFC. When we came into this season, we thought to ourselves, okay, Cincinnati's healthy. They're going to be a problem. Kansas City's going to be a problem. Buffalo should be pretty good. Maybe Miami's getting better. The Jets could compete. The Texans are going to be great. Like, we had all these views of how this was going to go. And here we are halfway through the season. It's anything but. Yeah. Like, there's nothing but vulnerability in the AFC. The Bengals are a mess right now. They can't figure out anything. Kansas City is vulnerable. Let's be completely honest.
Yes.
They are vulnerable. The Texans' record is not who they are, okay? That record looks great. They got some underlying metrics that if you study that team, they are ripe for a fall. And Stroud's numbers are down this year. I'm telling you, that team's not as good as the record indicates. Miami's nowhere to be found. Buffalo looks good, yes. But if this were going to be the year where you wanted to plant your flag and say, you know what, we're the cream of the crop, we're going to go for it, you only have to worry about whoever gets out of the NFC. And if that's Detroit, I think you could stack up well against them in New Orleans against Jared Goff. Like, that's a pretty good situation right there because the Niners are down, the Eagles look shaky, the Cowboys are nowhere to be found. I mean, this would be the year. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to get aggressive and you got this long-term business model, fantastic. But, like, don't get upset when you keep flaming out in the playoffs because you come up one guy too short in the big spot.
Yeah, it's the thing. Like, and I know what you said when I brought up the Max Crosby thing is exactly what we all say. Like, it's almost like I have an obligation when this microphone's open to shut someone else down when they bring that name up. Like, stop it. That's not the way that the Ravens do things. But I keep coming back to this shouldn't be the year for the Ravens to continue doing things the way that they do. I recognize it's been good business. But, man, if there was a time, now's the time. This is who you are. Your identity is the team that loses in the playoffs, and you have to shake that at some point. Like,
if you're the organization, sit in your chair, come together and say, all right, this is normally not how we do business. But let's go into the future 5 years. If we're 5 years from now and we haven't gotten to the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson, what the hell does it even matter what our business model is? Like, everybody is looking for Lamar Jackson. Everybody is looking for the quarterback that can win you the Super Bowl. Everybody is – if you don't have the quarterback, you got no shot whatsoever. None. You guys have him. You guys got the – I mean, even yesterday, just watching him buy time to try to set things up only for Bateman to drop that pass. You just think to yourself, good God, man.
Right.
Like, how much can you ask of this guy? And then when he came up short in the playoffs, the defense stepped up big, but, like, Zay Flowers wasn't there to help. Derrick Henry wasn't on the roster. There's going to be a time where Jackson can't do it all, and that's where you need the rest of the team to rally, which is why you dump the assets into it now. Those first-round picks are great, but if Jackson's gone and you have to solve the quarterback position and the next guy isn't any good, who cares how many first-rounders you have?
I know we're not supposed to say that. I know that's not supposed to be the way that it goes, but it's the way I feel, man, at this point. I really am there. And it's not just because they lost to the Browns. If they had won yesterday, I would have felt the same exact way, Joe, which is
yesterday was a flat spot. Look,
right.
I do a lot with the sports betting space.
Yeah.
Like a lot. Look, every professional on earth was betting Cleveland yesterday because Baltimore was on the short week and they had played like 5 huge games in a row. They were due for a flat spot. You shake that game off, you don't even pay it any mind.
Right.
But you're right, Glenn. You would have been saying this either way, and that's what matters.
That's the point. The point is this is the spot that you're in. This is what I think you need to do as a football team. Joe, I just your thoughts in general, like how much of what the situation that they're in the AFC, like the 1 seed is basically out of the picture. They're 3 games back and a tiebreaker. Like the 1 seed is out of the picture, but I don't know how important that is. As we saw a year ago, they had the 1 seed. It didn't make a difference. I think you can win when you play your football. You can win no matter what. Like I don't think this is a team that we suddenly say is a bad football team or not one of the best football teams. I guess the question is, if they don't do something significant, do you believe that this defense, you can win a Super Bowl with this defense?
I think it's matchup dependent because, again, like the number 1 seed didn't matter for you guys, but Mahomes is 10-2 at Arrowhead in the playoffs.
That's fair.
And the 2 losses are Brady with the Patriots, and then there was the AFC Championship game where Mahomes somehow just vomited on himself in that game, and the Bengals beat him. Like, that was a really odd performance from Mahomes. So going in there, what do you need to beat them? Well, number 1, you're going to need to be able to run the ball, which is something you guys can do because you don't want Mahomes on the field for 34 minutes. But you also got to play defense. Like, you're going to have to get some stops because that Kansas City defense is legit, right? I would say the Ravens are the type of team that's built to go on the road to compete in a spot like that. So I think they're capable of doing it, but you know, you just worry if Patrick Mahomes gets DeAndre Hopkins up to speed, if Xavier Worthy continues to develop, the Chiefs are only going to get better at wide receiver, barring an injury. And that's what everyone has to think about. Don't assess the Chiefs now, here on October 28th. Assess the Chiefs, 8 weeks from now when you're going to have to beat them in the playoffs. And the problem is they're going to be better than what you see right now, barring injury. And that's scary when you think about it.
Yep. Yeah, it really is. It's God, we've been dealing with that for a long time, and it is very scary to think about.
Hey, man, that's life in the AFC. If you were in the AFC East all those years with Brady and the Patriots,
every year,
brutal.
Right.
If you're the Chargers or the Raiders or the Broncos right now, life is miserable.
No doubt about it. Joe, I know obviously Carlin versus Joe on ESPN Radio every day from noon to 3, ESPN Bet Live on ESPN 2. What else can we plug for you, man?
That's it. We got the show today. Anyone who's getting ready to put some money down on Monday Night Football, we got you. We're on at 4 p.m. Eastern, ESPN 2. And then we're back Thursday, Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN 2. We'll get set for everything. We got the World Series tonight as well. Basketball's in full swing. Penn State, Ohio State this weekend. Come check us out. We greatly appreciate it.
At Joe Fortenbaugh is how you follow him. Joe, really appreciate it, man. This was great. We'd love to do this again real soon.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Glenn. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy. Joe Fortenbaugh back with us here on GCR. John from Little Rock said he was too much. I'm like, I thought that was pretty. It's funny though, because even he at first was clamoring like, "Hey, you got to do more." I throw out the idea of 2 first-round picks for Crosby. He's like, I don't know. And again, I don't even know that Max Crosby is available for 2 first-round picks. That's the crazy part. Anytime we throw out one of these wild names, I have no idea. My only real thought is I don't think the reason should be because it's not how we typically do business. I think there's got to be flexibility there at this point, and that isn't because of yesterday's result. I felt that way, as you guys know, for weeks at this point. The entire set of circumstances. And he adds in that the AFC appears to be so winnable. That hasn't even been on my list of reasons why I think you should be more aggressive than typical. But that entire set of circumstances to me is very real. Real quick before we grab Femi, Griffin, you want to remind everybody what's going on at Live Casino and Hotel?
Yes, every time that Baltimore or Washington scores touchdowns during home games, Baltimore back home this week. Hopefully we were there for a big last-second touchdown yesterday in the Washington game because if you were at Live Casino, you get $7 in free slot play for every home touchdown scored by Baltimore or Washington. Live Rewards members who have their card inserted correctly into the slot machine, any slot machine on the floor and are actively playing, get $7 in free slot play. Valid for slot play only. Adirondack Mills must be 21 to play. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You hear him, obviously, as part of our Project Game Day post-game show. He is Super Bowl 35 champion and the man behind BetYard AI. He's our friend Femi Ayanbadejo, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Hey, buddy. Monday any better than Sunday was?
Distance from bad loss always helps, but not enough distance just yet.
Femi, like all of us, was going through it because he is, of course, did you pull up the line so we know we have it correct? The purple. Oh, yeah. Get it correct. Let's make sure we have it right so that we can say it for forever. And I do want to put it on the screen as we introduce him. The most purple wearing, purple drinking.
I am the most purple drinking, purple bleeding, Raven wearing Raven you will ever meet.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And he was feeling it yesterday the same way that we all were. Femi, here's one of the things that I came to yesterday. I want to run this thought by you because I don't think I've even shared it yet today. I think yesterday was a reminder to me that the Ravens are a team with one of the highest ceilings, if not the highest ceiling in all of football. But that their floor, their volatility is more significant than a lot of other teams. Like I would look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and say, I don't think they have a ceiling anywhere close to as high as the Ravens. But I do think their floor is higher than the Ravens. I think we were reminded of the volatility of this team and what a dramatic difference there can be between their ceiling and what can be, a pretty ugly performance and what can be a pretty low floor for this group.
Yeah, I think if you think back to a couple weeks ago when the Ravens lost to Kansas City and then to the Raiders, I've always said they've had a high ceiling. That's something I've always thought and believed just based on the talent that they have and the way the roster has been put together. So there's no doubt about that, but they have a couple glaring issues. And they, in my opinion, they're mainly on the defensive side of the ball, and they're all self-inflicted. You know what I mean? I think Coach Belichick said it on Pat's show. Mm-hmm. He basically said that the Ravens, biggest threat is the Ravens.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He was pretty clear about that, and we saw it kind of, rear its ugly head yesterday. 3 drop passes on third down. You go 2 for 10 on third down. You end up going 5 for 10. That's your season average is 50%.
Yep.
You probably win the game. You have Zay. I think it was Zay wide open for a touchdown as Lamar got out of the pocket. A typical pass Lamar's been hitting. He didn't hit that pass. You have, I think, Eddie Jackson dropped 3 picks. Kyle Hamilton dropped a pick that could have sealed the game. Justin Tucker missed the field goal. There's enough blame to spread around. I think it's very hard for me to critique the offense and to make critiques against the offense and not and be serious because you basically have the number 1 offense in the NFL, but I'm not looking at the number 1 offense in the NFL. I'm looking at how you win football games. And when you're looking at opportunities to win football games, you critique everybody equally.
Yep.
Right? That's
Correct.
what I'm doing. So I don't want anyone to think that I haven't lost my mind in regard to like where this offense is and that this offense has been carrying this defense. And now I'm getting concerned about the defense because I've been saying for a couple weeks now that I still thought that this defense would be a top 10 scoring defense. At the end of the day, it's about scoring points. I thought this would be a top 10 scoring defense, but they're very deficient, in my opinion, in regard to getting pressure consistently. Yes, the sacks and the QB hits look good, but if you watch the game and you actually watch the game, they don't get enough pressure when they need to. The other thing is I still see communication happening while the ball is being snapped. That's led to big plays. That still is happening. It's been happening all season long. and the dropped interceptions continues to happen. And teams just pass the football way too easily on them, in my opinion. Now, has the offense on occasion, some of the play calling and decision making exposed the defense and left them vulnerable at times when you just need to play and do what you do well? Just run the ball. I don't care who knows what's coming. Let them know. It's fine. They still can't stop it necessarily. And once again, I'm nitpicking on the offense. The issue is not the offense. But like I said, I still have to make my critique. And dropping 3 third downs, missing a wide open guy in the end zone is going to cost you the game. Lamar's still the MVP, in my opinion. No one's playing better football than him in regard to 8 weeks of football that we've watched. The data proves that out. But I'm, once again, to your point, still a very high ceiling. This season is far from over. The Ravens still, if Pittsburgh loses today, they still have a share of first place. There's plenty of games to be played. They're still a playoff team today, which is a goal, right? So I know that if Coach Harbaugh is anything, he will go and make the changes that need to be made. He will coach these guys up. And let's not forget what Zach Orr was handed. 4 important coaches left. 3 defensive guys. I think Geno Stone was important. He's gone. PQ was important. He's gone. Jadeveon Clowney's important. He's gone. You didn't have Marlon yesterday. You didn't have your number one draft pick.
And we're not even talking about Ronald Darby, who I think was way more critical to this than a lot of people would like. That just the comfort that you had in the guys that were in the back last year to allow you to blitz Kyle Hamilton and Arthur Millette the way that Mike McDonald did.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of key guys that are gone, and some names are bigger than others. But I think as a unit, each person that has moved on or gone somewhere else was a key contributor to one of the best. Well, obviously the best defense that, in the NFL last year, probably. In regard to turnovers, points scored, and what was the sacks, right? I mean, that it's the first time an NFL team has ever led in all 3 of those categories. They did it. Were they better than the 2000 defense? Probably not, but football's played a lot differently now than it was in 2000, so I don't even think it's a fair comparison necessarily.
Right.
But in regard to today's football, that was an amazing defense, and I've said this over and over again. I'm not drunk on 2023 Ravens football, but that was the best Ravens team in history from a talent perspective. Now, the best team talent-wise doesn't always win the Super Bowl.
That's it goes.
The Chiefs, in my opinion, continue to win Super Bowls, and they're not always the most talented team on both sides of the ball, but they find a way to get it done because they make the plays that need to be made when they need to be made, and that's what makes the Chiefs who they are. And right now, we're trying to get there.
Femi, do you believe that the personnel they have, and we know that part of the story yesterday was no Nate Wiggins, no Marlon Humphrey, reasonably assuming those guys are back, can they win a Super Bowl if they don't acquire something of significance to add to this defense?
Yes, they definitely can. I think the adjustment that I would have loved to have seen yesterday is, and I think I may have said this on air, do you want to die a death by 1,000 cuts? Or do you just want to go guns blazing and
just
go
start
out
going
in a blaze of glory? Yeah. In my opinion, it's like, let's just bring the house because Jameis hasn't been really battle tested, and we know he'll throw picks, and he put the ball in position for picks. So all that being said, if we forget about the dropped interceptions for a moment, pressure was the other issue. My thought is like they did go some zero coverage. I actually think the touchdown to win the game for them was zero coverage. Yes. I believe it was.
Yep.
But I would not have minded seeing more zero coverage throughout the game. Pressure bust pipes. As my man Rod likes to say, former Raven Hall of Famer. That's one of his favorite phrases, and I agree with that phrase. Pressure does bust pipes, and I think when you got a guy who's been sitting for a couple weeks, hasn't really started a game in a couple years, I feel like maybe more pressure would have been the approach, but it's easy for me to sit here today and say that, right? Like I can sit here and say that now. But the reality of it is Zach called the game that he called, and the plays were there to be made to win the game, and the plays weren't made. So now we're all sitting here second guessing because we're disappointed.
By the way, the number that stood out to me, of all the numbers that I saw floating around yesterday, and I shared it earlier, Femi, Jonas Schaefer from the Banner shared this out. Opposing quarterbacks are getting an average of 3.96 seconds to throw on 3rd and long against the Ravens this season. That's the worst mark for any team in the past decade per True Media, and almost a half second slower than the second worst team, which is 3.52 seconds.
Wow. I did not know. I knew something was amiss, but to hear the data, so I know it's not like we're not being emotional when we say we're not getting pressure.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's a fact. Okay, that validates it.
Yeah.
So Wow, dude, that is bonkers. I did not know that. I had not heard that. So,
and again, there's because some people will say, well, they still have a good number. Like, I think they're still like third in the NFL in sacks this season, and you recognize that some of which is because teams simply aren't running the ball against the Ravens. Like, they're just not.
Yeah.
And so opportunity is created more. But that in those circumstances, and you could try to say, well, hey, they want to play coverage in 3rd and long because it's hard to convert 3rd and long. Like, do you or do you want to send the house and try to get the ball out quickly and force someone to throw the ball short of the sticks? That's a bonkers.
I would love to
number.
have seen more Kyle Hamilton around the line of scrimmage yesterday. And I know he's one guy, and everyone talks about him. I mean, you can't abuse the privilege that you have of such a good player, right? So I get that too. You know what I mean? And I'm not even going to bring up his drop pick. I mean, no one's probably more upset than he is, right? I think 99 times out of 100, he probably catches that football. It's just unfortunate that it happened the way that it happened, but he was the best player on the field yesterday, in my opinion, when the Cleveland offense was on the field and the Ravens defense, he was the best player on the field out of those 22 guys, in my opinion. Right. I know Jameis made some plays, but Jameis threw some balls up for interceptions, and we just didn't catch them. So, in my opinion, when Kyle Hamilton's on the field, usually he's the best player of the 22 guys on the field, counting all 22, right? Like, you saw the plays that he made. I mean, he had a crazy halftime stat line. I think like 2 PBUs, a forced fumble, a sack, 7 or 8 tackles, like something crazy. Like, I was like, wow, that was a halftime stat line. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that just shows you how good he is. And unfortunately, you might have to go to the well with him a little bit more and, put him closer to the line of scrimmage. I don't know what's happening with this Eddie Jackson, Marcus Williams situation. It just seems like things are not good, and there's a lot of things they're keeping in-house right now. I don't know what the solution is there, but, I think Ray said it. Pressure alleviates coverage in a lot of ways. You get more pressure, I think the secondary's in a lot better position. But also, let's keep in mind, your 2 best corners were not on the field yesterday. And yes, I think Nate Wiggins and Marlon Humphrey are your 2 best corners. I believe that.
I think there's no question about I think Nate Wiggins has, again, the highest ceiling of anybody in that group. So I probably am inclined to agree with you that they're your 2 best. All right, well.
Yeah, and Brandon is solid, right? But we know Brandon's always going to be in somebody's pocket, but his issue is always finding the
making
ball,
the
locating
play.
and making a play. Exactly. But he's always there. Like, Brandon's a damn good player. He's a damn good corner, right?
No question.
But I still think that you can't have guys covering for 4 seconds on 3rd down. Like, you just can't. Like, it's, Glenn, you'll get open.
Yep. It's the NFL in 2024. Like, that's the rules will not allow for that to work. You have to make a play in the backfield. You have to force the ball out. You can't. We are in a lockstep when it comes to that, although I'm still not sure that I could get open. That all being said, how was the weekend for BetYard AI?
Yeah, it was a mediocre weekend. We were right around 50% across the board this weekend. We've had like a couple really, really solid weeks, but there was some, that Hail Mary by Jaden yesterday messed us up. I think watching Carolina, dude, like, they need to be relegated, I think. You know what I mean? Like, I do. Like, I don't know what Carolina's doing.
Did you hear J.C. Horn was whining about them running up the score? Like, dude, what? That is.
Who cares? This is the
This is the biggest loser talk I've ever heard in my life.
You're whining about the score getting ran up on. Shoot, they need to score 100 on you. Then.
Right.
Like, keep running it up. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a mediocre day in general. Not bad, not great, but I think overall we know that we're in the thick of the season. We expect really good performances to come because the data is where it's supposed to be for us. So, like I said, I encourage everyone to go to BetYardAI.com, download your free week, get your performance guarantee. You only pay if you win. Basically, if we're on over 50%, you're not paying for it anyway. So go ahead and give it a spin. Our UI UX is super clean. We've got a ton of great feedback on how the interface is so easy to use and interpret. And take that information and do with it what you will. You know what I mean? There's a ton of different sports books you can take that information to. We usually give you the best line, best option on where these lines are as well. So it's hard for me to talk business because, like I said, and I know I keep kind of refining my phrase. I'm the I'm the most purple bleeding, purple drinking, purple wearing, Ravenous Raven you're gonna meet. Like that's the real phrase. Like that's the clean one. But yeah, I'm a little disappointed today, but I'm still optimistic. I think this team, sky's the limit, ceiling super high, and I think we get right against Denver. Denver's a good team, by the way, but I think Denver's the kind of team that we'll be prepared for at home.
I tend to agree with you, and I don't think yesterday's game was predictive. I don't think it was, because to your point, the story of yesterday was much like what happened in Pittsburgh a year ago, where a bunch of guys just didn't catch the football. It just so happened to be that some of them were on the other side of the field this time around. That all being said, I do think, and the point we keep coming back to, the lack of pressure, that is predictive. Like that is something that has to be fixed somehow, some way. I still think the trade deadline is the best way to do it, but if they can do it internally, I am all for them doing it internally, because they have to improve that moving forward if they want to win a Super Bowl. Love you, brother.
I agree. I love you too, brother. Hey, we don't need to talk about it right now, but like, who's really out there?
It's part of the problem, right? Like last night, everybody was talking about Micah Parsons, right? Is he doing the thing where he's hurt because he doesn't have a contract? All of this stuff sounds great. I don't know who actually is on the table, other than I genuinely believe that you could probably have Jadeveon Clowney back at this point, because as we point out, the Panthers appear to be a money laundering scheme. So I do.
Is he healthy? Is Jadeveon healthy?
It's healthy enough. I mean, like, I guess is the way I would say it, but it's a fair question as well. And I don't know how much Jadeveon Clowney changes things for you, as much as maybe it's bringing in one more body and just continuing to hope that you can find your way. I don't know, man. I don't know. All right, brother. Love you. We'll talk to you on Sunday.
Yep.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.
Femi Ayanbadejo, Super Bowl champion, betyardai.com. And all right. Jadeveon Clowney's playing, right? Like, he's playing. So he's healthy. When I say healthy enough, he's healthy enough to be on the field. Is he healthy enough to make an impact? I don't have that answer. Jadeveon Clowney's numbers this season, not great. One sack.
I mean, he's the only guy.
I get it. But it's a fair question to ask. I can't make it rosier than it is. It's one sack. 19 total tackles for Jadeveon Clowney. That's what's out there. Or you try to go bold, if it can be done. And I still don't know if it can be done. I have no idea if you could make something work. It might very well be that the Ravens have tried calling the Raiders every day about Max Crosby, and every day the Raiders have said, stop, we're not trading him. Or, sure, we'll trade him if you want to give us your first-round pick in each of the next 5 drafts. That might be what's going on. I don't know. That's the difficult part about the trade deadline. I guess we don't have time to take a break here.
Yeah, I guess not.
Nope. Our number 1 of today's show is in the books. It's been brought to you by the Arthur Millette Show. I promise the next 48 hours our plan is to announce a date for the next Arthur Millette Show. I think I know when it's going to be, but we just got to finalize that and finalize some plans, and had some things pop up. It's a complicated story, but we love doing the show. We've been having a great time. Great to see Arthur back out on the field yesterday, and you can only imagine how that grows from here. You can always find out more about the Arthur Millette Show at PressBoxOnline.com/Millette, but be prepared. No show next Monday. We're just working on what the date is going to be for the next Arthur Millette Show. And we will let you know as soon as we possibly can. It's all brought to you by Easy Pass and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. But we're going to continue to see you all season long for the Arthur Millette Show, which we have really enjoyed doing and look forward to doing more and more. Continue to get me your slaps to the helmet at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. It's very simple. 5 Ravens, most deserving of scorn. I get that we're not having a fun day today, but it'd be a lot more fun if you get a $50 gift card to Costa Sin out of the deal. Far more pleasant day and you'll be registered just by participating. That's it. Just send us 5 names, even if you're wrong, as long as it counts, as long as you meet the qualifications. 2 offensive players, 2 defensive players, the 5th being a special teams player, a coach, another offensive player, another defensive player, as long as you send us a list that qualifies, even if we vehemently disagree, even if you put players on the list that barely played, as long as you put together a list that qualifies, you will be registered to win that $50 gift card to the Costas Inn, CostasInn.com, in order to use it on any of the delicious food they have at the Costas Inn. All right. Griffin's now telling me I got to take a break. So let's do that. We'll take a break, then we'll talk to Dan Wilcox next. Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
PressBox's Project Game Day is the place to be after every game this season. Join Glenn Clark, Rita Hubbard, Super Bowl 35 champion Femi Ayanbadejo, and our cast of regulars as they break down what happened, why it mattered, and what it means moving forward. You can watch the show at PressBoxOnline.com/GameDay or PressBox's Facebook and YouTube pages. Project Game Day is brought to you by the Green Turtle Sportsbook in Towson and Canton, Easy Pass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. So join us for Project Game Day after every game day this football season at PressBoxOnline.com/GameDay.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. Don't forget, for everything that you could possibly need to know about high school sports in the region, countysports.zone is the place to go. It's all brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Scores, schedules, rankings, updates. We are getting to the nitty-gritty in high school football season, and they've got you covered. countysports.zone. Joining us now here on GCR, one of my favorites, former Ravens tight end, host of Believe in Ravens. He's our buddy Dan Wilcox, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Hey, brother, how you doing? Everything good?
Everything's great, Glenn. How you doing, my man?
I could have gone without the Ravens losing yesterday. That would have been more pleasant, but yeah. Yeah, otherwise, yeah, it's what it is.
I was trying to stay away from that energy myself, man.
Hey, man. What are you going to do?
I actually laugh about it now that I'm not playing.
So, look, Dan, I'll pose a few things to you that I think Ravens fans are bandying about, right? The struggles of the defense. And it's not just yesterday, right? Like, I think we can say that the pass defense in particular all season long has been a problem for this team. How much of that to you is new coordinator and Zach Orr being in a tough spot? How much of it do you really just falls on the players? Like yesterday, the number of times that a ball was there to be intercepted, Jameis Winston, as he's prone to do, asking you to do it, and the players just not getting the job done.
I think it's a mixture of a little bit of everything, Glenn. To be honest with you, I do think the new coordinator has something to do with it. But I mean, busted coverages and busted plays, that's usually on the position coach, not on the DC. The position coach has to put the best players on the team that know what they're doing at all times. And those players have to come and prepare. They got to prepare to be the best, man. I mean, it's the Ravens. I mean, it's Ravens football. It's known for defense. But right now we're known for offense. We're not even known for defense anymore right now. I don't know what's going on, but I think Zach Orr is going through some growing pains being a new DC. But his staff, the staff that he has with the position coaches underneath him, they have to rally together and figure this thing out because they all should be helping him be the best DC that he could possibly be. When you get a new D coordinator job, you want to usually be able to hire your own staff. You want to hire guys that's going to support you and guys that are going to have your back and guys that are going to work their tails off for you. A lot of these guys was already on staff already. Mm-hmm. And he really go out and hire anybody that he didn't get a chance to go out and hire who he wanted to hire to help him out be the best DC that he could possibly be. And you need intelligent minds, man. You go get Dean Pease back, and I don't know if they brought him back to help Zach or to put him in position to be the next DC. I really don't know right now. I can't see the help. So in my mind, when you see guys dropping balls and stuff like that, that's something that you have to be keyed in on and zoomed in and dialed in on, and you got to make those plays. Most guys that play defense don't have excellent hands like Ed Reed, and that's what made Ed Reed such a dynamic DB because his hands was phenomenal. Same with Troy Polamalu. So when you see great DBs with great hands, the Deion Sanders of the world, you have to respect that they could have went on the offensive side of the ball and probably ran routes and caught balls, on a consistent basis, man. And the way we dropped interceptions yesterday, it's kind of disheartening, man. Those plays are the plays that give you momentum, that put you in positions to win, that put you in better positions each quarter, and it keeps the momentum on your side. And when you're playing at somebody else's field, you need that momentum to be shifted in your favor as much as possible,
So, Dan, I guess one of the questions that I have is just the pressure, right? Like, that to me is the part that I keep coming back to. And I know that it's not always the easiest thing in the world to say, hey, these guys have to do it. I don't know what the answer is outside of trying to make a trade for anyone, whether it's a return of Jadeveon Clowney or some big name that might be available. How do they improve the pressure? How do they make it so that quarterbacks do not have as much time to get comfortable and try to pick on this secondary at this point?
A lot of it is scheme and a lot of it is players. They say it ain't the X's and O's, it's the Jimmys and Joes. When they say that, they mean you want to have you want to have some of the best players in the league. We don't have any big name pass rusher or edge rusher right now. Maybe we need to go out and grab one. Maybe that would help a little bit. I'm not 100% sure, but at the end of the day, the DBs on the back end have a tough job to try to run with these new age receivers. These guys are quick, speedy, twitchy, and excellent route runners. So the DB has the toughest job on the field. So if you got to run around with those guys for 5-6 seconds, man, you can't expect to cover them the entire time. A quarterback is going to find a way to put the ball in the right hole. I mean, you see us do it all the time with Lamar. Lamar extend plays, and he find guys down the field wide open all the time. So, it's almost impossible to just cover somebody for 4 or 5 seconds. So
I agree.
You do got to get pressure. You do got to get pressure on the QB. And like I said, a lot of that is scheming up your best guys or scheming up your guys to get to the quarterback. A lot of people feel like Roquan Smith isn't playing at a high level, but I feel like he is. I just feel like the D-line has made so many plays for him, this year. The D-line have just been playing lights out. They've been doing phenomenal. And Roquan has still made a bunch of tackles. I think he's like the second leading tackler in the whole NFL, but you just don't, it's quiet. You don't even know he's doing it, and a lot of that is scheme. If he's not hitting the quarterback, 2 or 3 times a game, or, then you don't even recognize him making the big hits that he does make down the field if he ain't causing fumbles and stuff like that. So I feel like if we came together and just put together a scheme to be able to get some of these guys freed up so they can have clear shots on the QB, that would definitely help out a lot in the passing game.
Dan, I'm going to go back to something that you said because you brought up Dean Pease coming back in and whether or not, he was here to help or whether he was here to be like the defensive coordinator in waiting. I think it's insane after 8 games to even be thinking about making a coordinator change. Like, it just seems crazy to me. But is there a point in which you say, whether it's fair or not, you're trying to win a Super Bowl, and if something's not working, you might have to do something crazy because you can't let this be what wastes your opportunity to win a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think if I'm the head coach right now for the Baltimore Ravens, if I'm Coach Harbaugh, I think I'm going in there to have a conversation with my coaches before I meet with the players. And I think I look at those coaches in the eyes and I say, man, look, we're going to a Super Bowl this year. We're going to win the Super Bowl this year. If we don't do one of those 2 things, it's because of one of these guys in the room. And I'll be looking at the coaching staff, just talking directly to the staff. You got to ask yourself if you're doing everything that you got to do in order to put us in position to be great. Are you working hard enough? Because I kind of felt like it was a lack of game plan yesterday too as well. And, when you have certain games, you feel like you can kind of, not work as hard that week. It's a little airy, it's a little loose. They 1-6. They're not playing well. They just lost their starting quarterback. Jameis Winston is going to start for them. So you may be feeling like this is an easy win. And there are no easy wins in the NFL. It's any given Sunday, man. Somebody could sneak up on you and, and bite the apple. So you got to figure out, how you could prepare week in and week out like you're playing against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots the year they was undefeated. And I remember even as a tight end, as a wide receiver, I used to say, whoever the best DB I played against, in order for me never to get caught slipping, I got to treat every DB like he's that DB.
Right.
Yeah, so you got to treat every game like it's the best team you've ever faced, no matter how good they are, no matter how bad they are. You got to treat them like they're the best. You got to give them that type of respect. If you give them that type of respect, then nobody never slips up. You never lose a game like we lost yesterday. And it's disheartening that we lost that game because games like this early in the season, the Raiders game, this game, they kind of come back to hunt you late in the year. Now you lose a game or 2 late in the year, and now you put yourself in a position that you didn't want to be in because you gave away 2 freebies early in the season.
That's a reality, and at the moment, you might even be like completely out of the race for the number 1 seed in the AFC already, just because you're 3 games and a tiebreaker behind, and the likelihood of the Chiefs, gifting you 4 games back is slim to none. It's just not something that they are likely to do. Dan Wilcox is with us here on GCR. All right, Dan, so the trade deadline is a week from tomorrow. I'll present it this way. The Ravens, we get to next Tuesday afternoon. The Ravens have made a move. In Dan Wilcox's world, what is the best case scenario for what that move is?
I think I have to go get a big time safety, and I got to go get a big time edge rusher, and maybe a big time corner. If I can make something happen, I think that's what I would be leaning towards. And I would go to some of these teams that are struggling right now that's going to put their bid in for Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. I would go to some of those teams that are struggling right now, and I would try to get one or 2 of their best players and try to bring them over there to us. Like Max Crosby, that guy. Whew, to me, he looks like a Raven.
Yeah, but it's going to cost you a lot. Like, that's going to cost you. That's the thing that I keep coming back to, Dan, because making a move like that, you're talking about a world where that could be 2 first-round picks, even if the Raiders are willing to. We don't even know if they are. But even if they are, it could cost you legitimately 2 first-round picks, and immediately you say, well, that's not how the Ravens do things. But I don't know. I feel like the uniqueness of the situation you're in, combined with the playoff utility in recent years. Like, if there was a year for the Ravens to do something un-Ravens-like, I think this is the year for the Ravens to do something un-Ravens-like.
Well, hearing you say that, Glenn, it makes perfect sense to me 100%. Like, I got a wish list sometimes, and sometimes my wish list don't make sense.
Right.
Max Crosby, he would be a perfect Raven, but he was somebody that we should have tried to draft it ourselves. So at this point, what you have to do, if you're asking me honestly, I say go get a corner, go get a safety big time. I mean, you got a Kyle Hamilton back there. He's such an alien back there. He's such a phenomenal player. You got to put somebody back there that's like-minded as him that can play that free spot that allow us to kind of roam a little bit better. We got a bunch of injuries right now, and you have to account for those injuries too on the defensive side of the ball. Unfortunately, you got a new DC. You're struggling right now with the new scheme, and then you get a bunch of injuries on top of that where you're losing all your starters. So I mean, and you got Travis Jones is playing hurt, Pierce is out now. Marlin's out right now. So you got a bunch of key guys that really support you. That are your supporting cast. Marlon was having probably one of his best seasons already.
No question. Question.
So you lose him early like this, man, that sucks. So I think, to me, go get a safety, go get another corner that could come in. Brandon Stevens has been playing great, but he's always in position, just never makes the plays. You got to try to figure out some of that stuff and try to get some of that back and try to figure out how you can put these guys in situational plays that they're successful, because right now we're struggling with some of the little things. Some of the stuff that Rex Ryan used to do back in the day used to be so freaking confusing. And sometimes you got to mix it up to go do some misdirection type stuff to confuse people, to allow them to be able to free up and make some easy sacks versus, having to work so hard for the sacks all the time.
Dan, before I let you go, because I was just reminded by Joe that of all the things I've talked about today, that there are two that I haven't really talked about. The decision yesterday on the first drive of the game, 4th and 1, to A, both go for it there, and then B, to take the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands and run Derrick Henry in the Wildcat. What did you think about both layers of that decision?
I mean, I think of it two different ways. The player in me is like, man, that's the dumbest damn decision we've ever made. The player in me. The coaching decision in me, makes me say, the coaching in me makes me say that was the dumbest decision we ever made. So there's the first drive. You're playing an away team. Your team is struggling. The team that you're playing against have been struggling all year. This is the opportunity to put any kind of points on the board. It's 4th and 1. You go to the Wildcat where everybody knows you're going to get the ball to Derrick, directly to Derrick, versus you having some kind of source of surprise of what you're going to do. They load the box up. You go to Wildcat. You actually snap the ball. I would have called a timeout or something and then change the play. But you snap the ball to Derrick, and now you're expecting him to try to bully himself into a hole when they got 11 guys stacked up right where he's running. So I just, it wasn't the brightest thing I've seen us do. At the same time, I could understand trying to be aggressive and then trying to take something away, trying to take a big chunk of their hearts away early in the game. I felt like we should have took the 3 points at that point. They stopped us, give them, pat them on the ass, say, great job, fellas.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming right back at you the next series, but we're going to take this 3. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we just kind of poop down our legs, almost every series.
Yep, there was an awful lot of that. Dan, to your point, I can live with the decision to go for it, right? You've got Lamar Jackson. You should be able to get with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the backfield, you should be able to get 1 yard no matter what. But why in God's name are you taking 50% of that equation away? Like, that's the point is when teams don't know what's coming, I am befuddled by that. That play to me is not even in the playbook in a scenario where Lamar Jackson isn't in the backfield. You are making life easier on the team that you're going up against.
Yeah, the crazy thing is you watch Monk in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and the game plans have been better and better and better. Like, last week I was praising him. Like, the game plan was on point. He was killing. Every play call was hitting. So when you go watch this game, you look at the play calling and you like, bro, like, what are we doing? So it's like, it's the same thing that happened in the AFC Championship game last year. We're the number 1 rushing team in the league. Then you get Derrick Henry the ball 11 times this game. Last year you give it to Gustum, I think 8 or 9 times last year in the AFC Championship. It was weird. It's just like, bro, what are we doing? Like, you're the number 1 rushing offense, you're throwing the ball 40 times in the game, and you're acting like we're not the number one rushing offense in the league again, against a team that only had us down by no more than 7 points the entire game. So you were never really down in the game. The entire time, you never really was down. So I don't know why you're treating it like you're down by 2 or 3 touchdowns, and you got to throw yourself back into the game.
Again, it's on that list of things that we talk about, like the thing where we say, well, with Derrick Henry, they're not going to get away from the run the way that they did in the AFC Championship game. Well, it's fair to point out that they seem to get away from it, and it really does feel like unless they are playing bully ball, unless they're playing from in front, they know exactly what they want to do in those circumstances. But somehow when they're not, I don't know what happens to this football team, man. Like, there is no need to become a different team. And again, like I get, they went down, they scored a touchdown late, they did what they needed to do, but even on that drive, it seemed like maybe you incorporating Derrick Henry a little bit more, and perhaps considering the clock would have been helpful as well. But nothing you can do now, man. Just got to go out and get the job done against Denver on Sunday. Dan, you want to remind everybody about the podcast?
Absolutely. Please tune in to Believe in the Ravens podcast with myself and Matt Trigger. Matt is a Baltimore native, been a fan his entire life, watched me play, watched everybody play for the last 30, 40 years of his life, man. So it's an awesome podcast, and we're always talking about Ravens football. So I appreciate you having me on, Glenn. You do a phenomenal job, my brother, and can't wait to talk to you next time.
Love you, buddy. Let's talk soon. Thank you, as always, taking the time, my friend. Really appreciate you.
No problem, Glenn.
Dan Wilcox, former Ravens tight end, Believe in Ravens. Obviously, these are more pleasant after Ravens wins, but you don't get to dictate that. That's not the way the world works. The results are the results. You deal with them accordingly. My. Come back in. We'll talk to maybe Jeremy Conn has something pleasant to say. Maybe he'll have some sort of fun story. Perhaps he, pooped his pants or something. And you just never know with him, what it could be, and that'll make us snicker. They'll get a cackle out of me, and I'll say, it's better than me going over picks. I know that much. God.
I didn't check how bad you did.
Oh.
I knew I was kind of like 500.
About
maybe,
as bad as it could
100.
possibly be. About as bad as it can get. I won one game this weekend.
Really?
The good news is everybody at the bottom of the table was bad. I'm back in last place, but only by a game.
I had a pretty good week. I mean, all things considered.
In comparison?
At
Yeah.
5-4.
5-4, you were a hero. I don't know what the hell's going on with Ryan Shell. I don't know what's happened there. He is running away with the league.
Wow, he's seeing the board well.
It's crazy. We'll talk about it. Maybe we'll go over picks with Jeremy. Maybe we'll do that, have some fun with it. All right, that's next. Glenn Clark Radio.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Brooks Dubose profiles Maryland basketball forwards Derek Queen and Julian Reese as the Baltimore-built duo reunites in College Park with hopes of bringing the Terps back to prominence. Also inside, meet college basketball players from all of the area's D1 programs. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores, where you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. Coming up a little bit later on today, Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson. They're talking baseball with you. 4 o'clock, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Getting you ready for Game 3 of the World Series this evening. So far, the enemy of my enemy has been my friend. May that continue. May that be the entirety of the story of the World Series. This is, I'm not embracing it. I'm not like celebrating it, but so far, so good. Talk baseball. Stan, Ross, and Luke. A little bit later on this afternoon. And if you miss it live, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline, PressBoxOnline.com/video. Joining us now to tell us more about the World Series, he is the aforementioned Ross Grimsley. Ross, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, man, screw the Yankees. I don't care if they lose every damn game. Cool. Hey, what's up?
Hey, buddy. Everything good?
Yeah, as good as it can be. I had a crappy NFL Sunday, but what's new? This league has been just drunk.
Jeremy, you went 2-7 in our picks league this week. And
I went, what, 2-7?
2-7, and you did better than I did.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I had a good week last week, and I think you did too, right?
I did. No,
I
had a really good. I had a really good week. I had crawled. I was in last place with a bullet for a little while. Crawled all the way out of the hole, got out of last place, was feeling good about myself, and then dropped a nice 1-8 steamer this week. 1-8.
You know, the best part of this is that I had I won on Thursday night, so I started off 1-0.
Oh, and then you went 1-7 the rest of the whole way. I went a cool 0-6 in NFL picks, so I got that going for me, which is nice. Nice, cool 0-6. At least I had that Chicago Bears cover lined up. That was that was right in the window.
Well, so that hurt.
Oh God. All right, well, I'll do the full recap here in a minute, so we can talk about the rest of the games this weekend. I don't know what there is to say. Like, the Ravens lost. They dropped a bunch of interceptions. They have real defensive problems that aren't related to dropping interceptions. Like, they don't get enough pressure. I don't know what to make of it because I feel it's this strange feeling that I have about yesterday's game where it's not – it's probably more anomaly to me than it is predictive, but it still speaks to, I think, the volatility of a team with a very high ceiling but a little bit of a lower floor than some of the other good teams in the NFL.
Yeah, again, you got the Denver Broncos coming into town this week, and you have the same record as them, which just sounds off. It doesn't sound right,
It doesn't feel
wait a minute,
right.
You're telling me the team that with this quarterback, this rookie quarterback, and I was saying it on the air today, like you start to look at the Ravens and, they used to be dominant against rookie quarterbacks. They used to be a team that you could expect to get stops and get after the quarterback. This used to be a defense that you feared. Now it's one that you got to circle it when it's on the schedule because, hey, this is a chance for me to get right. So it's just ugly.
Yeah, it's very ugly. I still think that ultimately I would rather have Lamar Jackson. I would rather have that. Like, if you told me, and I said this to one of the, it might have been Aaron Schatz who we had on, and I said, would you rather have, but at the time, I know it's come back to the earth a little bit, but at the time was a historic start for Minnesota's defense. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have the Ravens' offense? And it was like, dude, it's not close. Like that, offense is predictive. Like I'm still in a place where it ain't great, but you're better off having a great offense. And for the most part, the Ravens do. They got to catch the ball. They didn't do that yesterday. But I don't know, man. I think the next 8 days are important because I think in trying to win a Super Bowl, you've got to find some sort of way to add to this defensive unit because it really leaves you quite volatile going into the postseason if you don't.
Yeah, and then look, you were down 2 corners, but let's be honest, 2 starting corners. I don't know how much it would have mattered. There's no pass rush really, and I know we can sit here and look and say, Kyle Van Noy's having a nice year, but it has to be more than that. There has to be,
Yep.
I feel like, and I think I read this yesterday, that the Ravens, they're either 1 or 2 and seconds giving up the quarterback to throw the football.
Well, the tweet from Jonas Schaefer about 3rd and long is the one that I can't get away from that. That to me is the most damning statistic, and I don't know if this is the one that you were talking about, but Jonas from the Baltimore Banner yesterday tweeted out, and he got the numbers from True Media. Opposing quarterbacks are getting an average of 3.96 seconds to throw on 3rd and long. That's 7 yards or more against the Ravens this season. Yeah. That's the worst mark for any team in the past decade per True Media, and almost a half second slower than the runner-up. Like, it's the worst, and it's the worst with a bullet. It's like everybody else is getting a B and you're getting an F. You're the only guy in the class that can't pass. It's the elective that everyone takes because it's an easy A, and you're the one that's getting an F.
And the weird thing is, statistically, they're going to be in the conversation if Lamar stays healthy to be one of the best offenses in the history of this league. I mean,
right.
They have that type of potential,
right?
And it's almost the exact opposite of what we had for years here, where it's this great defense and the offense is horrendous, and you're going, God, if we could just be middle of the pack on offense, we could win another Super Bowl. Or if we could just be middle of the pack on defense, maybe you could. So I don't know, man. It's so frustrating. Like the thing that I would say is that I feel like they need a pass rusher more than they need anything else. And if they could find a trade partner, but it's not easy.
No.
And they're kind of stingy with their picks,
That's the part that last part is the one part that I don't know that you're going to be able to find an impact rusher, right? Like I think you could probably make a trade to bring back Jadeveon Clowney. I think that's very much on the table, but Jadeveon Clowney has 1 sack this season in Carolina. I don't know that he's an impact rusher as much as he's a guy that had kind of a magical season a year ago in Baltimore. And still, his magical season didn't make him TJ Watt. It just made him helpful, right?
Yeah.
But like the last part of what you said is the part that I'm putting a stake in the ground at this point. Given all of their playoff failures in recent years, and given that Derrick Henry was only signed for 2 seasons, and adding in that like the AFC does look as winnable as you could possibly imagine, and the other part that nobody's talking about is like you got to have a referendum on John Harbaugh because he's only under contract for 1 more season, and unless he's decided that he's ready to retire, you're not having him coach as a lame duck. Like that, doing that to John Harbaugh would be insane. Like insanity. And they could just tack on 1 more year and just keep doing this for an eternity. But at some point, you've got to figure out if the playoff shortcomings are because of the head coach. Like, you've got to make a decision and not just keep saying, well, we're coming up short in the playoffs, but let's just keep doing the same thing every year. And so the part where you say they're stingy about their picks, yes, and it's served them well for years. It's how they've been able to be relevant every year, and I am greatly appreciative of that. But the circumstances, to me, have finally reached the point where that can't be the reason. If you can't make a trade because if the Raiders are unwilling to trade Max Crosby, all good. But if the answer is they say, we'll trade him, but it's going to be for a first-round pick and a second-round pick the following year, for God's sakes, this is the time. You have to figure it out. You've got to make that move because you can't just keep sitting back and saying, well, maybe this will be the year. Maybe we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and then the other part to your point is like, see, with the Orioles, they're just starting out and their window's just now open and they've got all this young talent. At some point, they're going to have to bite the bullet and possibly, trade, and maybe you consider that with like the Kyle Stowers and
Right.
Connor Norby trade, that they made a move because
Yeah.
those guys are blocked and whatever.
Yeah.
I don't need to go down that path, but you can see like they you're looking at a team that could have made some different moves, and they have things that they don't want to give up. The Ravens have always been this way with draft picks, and they're so valuable. You see other teams doing it. Like the damn Chiefs were calling the Rams about Cooper Kupp, and they were like, "We want you to take on a lot of money," and they're like, "Okay, well, give us a second-round pick." And they're like, "Oh man, that's way too steep."
Right.
And I'm like,
For
well, what's
Cooper
gonna put you
Kupp,
over the
yeah,
top
right.
again?
For Cooper Kupp, like, have you heard of him?
A second-round pick for Cooper Kupp, and you're not going to have to eat up most of his contract. They're going to take care of it. Like, it just, I don't know. It's weird when we look at the league and what the going rate is for some of these guys. I mean, hell, when Randy Moss got traded from the Raiders to the Patriots, I think that was what, a 5th-round pick or 6th-round pick,
Right.
and then the next year he breaks the touchdown record.
Yeah, and they're the best offense in football. They're undefeated, right?
Yeah. So again, like I don't know if they have the right trade partner. I understand you have cap issues. Work it out. These bad teams, they've got to be under the cap. And there's so many bad teams in the league. Maybe it just makes it difficult because kind of everybody's still in it except for a handful of teams. Like the Giants have the best pass rush in the league. Can't call them about somebody.
Man,
the Jets with Hassan Reddick. Can you see if he wants to come? You know.
By the way, I mean that is an interesting scenario to think about. Like, do they just wave the white flag and say, "Well, we tried"? I don't know how you do that with Aaron Rodgers because you made the moves that you made. It feels like you kind of have to just hope and pray that you're going to figure out a way to work it out. But man, I don't.
Well, you know, the Bills are the only team in that division with a winning record, and that's the AFC has 5 teams I think with winning records. The rest of them are either there's only one 500, the rest of them are below 500.
I mean,
it's weird, man.
It is very weird. Maybe Aziz Ojulari, who has 4 sacks for the Giants this year, is someone that you. I remember how much I liked him coming out of college, but I've always sort of thought like he's been an underperformer in the NFL. But you know, maybe that's a guy that you could pry away from the Giants, and I'd look at it. I don't know. They got to do something. I'm just not okay with saying, well, we got to keep doing the same thing, doing things the way that we've been doing them, because
and expect it to change. Like it's just.
Yep.
That's
right.
the one thing
By
that
the way,
really
you brought up
bothers me.
it's
know,
funny. Joe Fortenbaugh, who I know is big in the betting world on ESPN, he brought that up when he was on with us earlier. He was like, I would still be in on Cooper Kupp, and I don't know how I feel about that. Right? Like when I talked to Kurt Warner last week, he said if you're doing it, it's got to be something on the outside. It's not you don't need help on the inside. Like I know it doesn't. It seems crazy because we all think defense is the answer. But if Cooper Kupp really is out there for a second-round pick, could you just say maybe you make your, hey, Rashad Bateman learned how to drop the football again yesterday. Remember that was part of his game. Do you consider that?
Well, and again, like you start looking around the league, are you going to tell me the Titans don't have anything that you might want? There are teams that know they're out of it now, and it all depends on the contract situation of the player, what the team's willing to take on, and what they want in compensation. And I mean, that's the whole point of trades, but you got to make sure it works out. And I don't know, man, it's just frustrating because in the NFL, they keep, as long as you have Lamar, you have that window. They had that great window when he's on a rookie deal, and it's like, now's the time. You pay him last year. You should have won last year. It was the best team I've seen in the past 25 years that didn't win. And maybe one of even the best teams I've seen in the past 25 years, to be honest with you, when you look at offensively and defensively, and you don't even make it to the Super Bowl. So, and then, of course, that piles onto the Lamar thing of can he win a big game and whatever your definition of a big game is.
No, not a big. He's won lots of big games. Can he win the playoffs? Can he win?
Yeah.
And that's what's in front of them, and that's why I think you got to be aggressive. All right, that moment on Friday night in Los Angeles, and I told you last week I have nothing more than the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So bless you. I'm not rooting for the Dodgers as much as I'm hoping that the Yankees don't win. But yeah, that was pretty effing electric, man. Like that was about as good as it gets.
Yeah, no, there's no. Like I've said this before, Freddie Freeman's my favorite baseball player that never played on my team. And I don't, what's funny is like I tip my cap to him so much when they traded for Matt Adams, and they're like, oh, they're telling him they're going to trade for Matt Adams. He's like, I'll play third base, let him play first because there was no DH back then.
Right. And
it's like this guy will do anything the team asks him to do. He's one of those professional hitters, like hits lefties, hits righties, hits for average, hits for power. He even steals bases, which is kind of odd. He's got the biggest teeth of any human being I've seen that's paid for him. But I love this guy to death. And then the stuff he was talking about, and I don't know if you saw all the weird stuff where, like, he hit the home run at 8:38 p.m. and so did Kirk Gibson at the exact same time on the East Coast
crazy,
or
man. That's
West
nuts.
Coast, whatever it was.
That's nuts.
Yeah, so just cool moments. And again, then you go into strategy and how you can make one wrong decision and ruin everything. So Aaron Boone looking at the situation, and he decides to walk Mookie Betts, who, I think you would have been better with Betts getting pitched to with Nestor Cortez than Freddie Freeman when you look at the numbers. And Freddie's hit lefties, and he's hit in this position before.
Yep.
So I think I'd have taken my chances there. But, again, we won't know how that would have worked out.
Nope. And I think there's plenty of reason to ask why Nestor Cortez was the guy in that spot, but that's their problem. It is not mine.
Well, the Dodgers can do something that puts a big smile on my face and sweep their asses and celebrate on their home field.
Yeah, that would
make me
be
happy.
that would be pleasant. I can't tell you that I'm like embracing the Dodgers in any way. I don't. But they ain't the Yankees. And that's the end.
I think it's easier for me to embrace the Dodgers even though they're paying all this money. They're not in our division. They're in the National League, and on top of it, like I said, I love Freddie Freeman. It'd be nice to see Shohei win. I don't want him I'm not saying I want them to just give out here, you're a great player, you should win a World Series. But when you see greatness, you don't like anything holding them back when we start those debates. And when the great players don't win a championship, it puts them behind so many other players, and according to other people's minds, not necessarily mine, but I don't know. I just like to see him win one.
I guess that's why, I don't feel anything differently about Barry Bonds because he didn't win a World Series, right? It ain't because of that guy.
But to be honest, you're a forward thinker as well. It's not just.
Oh, no, it's for the little brains, yes. It's a very little brain
when
argument, right?
Yeah, I have an argument with somebody, who's the best team in the NFL? And even all these weeks leading up, it's the Chiefs. Why? Well, they're undefeated. Well, come on. Give me something better than that. Pat Mahomes has thrown an interception in every single game.
Right.
They hadn't scored 20 points, and he hadn't thrown for 3. I mean, it was kind of crazy what was going on with them for an extended period of time. And then you had Aaron Schatz on. And I just retweeted, the only person that was worse than Deshaun Watson down the middle of the field was Pat Mahomes.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
I mean, these things, it's just strange numbers, and I think the league is really strange this year.
Yeah, it is really strange. I agree with that. And maybe I just feel that way because I went 0-6 in NFL picks this week. And so that's I don't know how to figure out, for example, this is the one from this weekend that is the most don't ever think you know anything about the NFL. Seattle goes across the country for a 1:00 game last week, pounds the Falcons, then goes back home to get pounded by a Bills team that doesn't really impress me all that much.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are. What is Seattle?
Well, the Bills were done headed into the third straight road game the other week, and now, you look at it, they've got a stranglehold in their division. Their division's so bad they might clinch mid-November, which that makes it really interesting. And then, for people that are down on the NFL, though, the good news is you get to watch the Giants tonight, and then you get to watch the Jets again on Thursday night.
God.
So,
Thank God. Did you see – hang on a second. You're familiar with the Nate Bargatze's George Washington sketches.
Love it.
Did you see the tweet the guy sent out yesterday?
No.
Oh, my God. This was my favorite tweet of the day. Of all of the tweets, this one is the tweet. So it's a picture of Nate Bargatze doing the George Washington sketch. And it's from a guy named Jarrett Bailey, and I'm not sure. Apparently, he's with the Sporting News, SB Nation. He tweets, "We will be a great league that has 2 teams from New York City. In which borough will they play, sir? None. They will play in New Jersey. And approximately 45% of their games will be on national television. Wow. These 2 teams must win very often, sir. Almost never."
When will they win their next game? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
That was such a great bit. And it's funny, too, when you get a guy like Bargatze who he's a clean comic,
Yes,
So,
yes.
And it's funny when you see a guy that works that way, that doesn't curse at all.
And yet is, genuinely funny.
Yes.
Yes.
I like that a lot. The whole Seinfeld thing,
Yeah. Oh, no. He's extraordinary. I will probably watch once every 6 months the routine about the water heater. I will do that now it's a whole thing about, now I'm in a conversation about water heater.
See, and as much as I like those guys, give me Norm Macdonald every day, 8 days a week, So
love that. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Hey, real quick before I let you go, the one thing that happened to me this weekend that I wanted to run by you. I know your children are adults now, so you're way out of this. But when they were younger, and you did like Halloween activities, and you saw the way that other the costumes that other kids were wearing.
Yes.
Did you ever question any of that? Like I couldn't. There was a 7-year-old wearing what's the guy named from Ghostface from Scream was wearing a Ghostface from Scream costume, and I kept thinking to myself like, how does a 7-year-old know who Ghostface from Scream? What is that a terrible parent or is that a really?
Ghost mask
and that's I can't. How much do you judge any of that, and are you thinking about that stuff? Like, I found myself doing nothing but that at this event that we were at on Saturday night.
I think I was very fortunate because I'm trying to remember which kid it was because I have 2 of them. But always wanted to be a Power Ranger.
Let's be fair. It's the one you like more.
Yeah. Wanted to be a Power Ranger every year. So he wore literally the same costume. He's like, well, go get you a new one. He's like, no, I want to be the Red Power Ranger. So, and I already have the costume. So, but it takes me back to, I told this story the other day doing a Halloween podcast with somebody. My mom, when I was a kid, I said I wanted to be a werewolf. And I don't remember which movie I'd watched. Maybe it was Monster Squad and Wolfman's Got Nards or something. I basically was a dude that went out in brown face. Like, she could not make me a werewolf. She didn't want to buy a mask. So she was trying to paint my face to make me look like a werewolf. And I basically went out with a brown face. That was it.
Oh, boy.
I think I get canceled today.
Boy. Oh, you'd definitely be canceled. There is no question about it.
I mean, there was no intent behind it or anything like that. I was supposed to be a werewolf.
I know, buddy, but that...
I had a wig on and a brown face, and I'm like, I look like an Ewok, you know?
That's the way it goes, man. That's the way it goes. All right, what's going on with you this week? Yeah.
No, I was going to say, with your kids, so what did they...
My
do they like their costumes,
older son was just like a bandit, like a robber. Like, it's boring as sin.
Okay.
I'm furious with him. Like, dude, that's what you came up with. That smells like somebody who just walked into Party City and said, I have to have a costume for something. I don't want to put an amount of thought or effort into it. You're a kid. You should have like the most creative imagination of all time. I couldn't believe that what he came up with was a bandit costume out of a plastic bag at Party City. My younger son went as Harry Potter. It's not for me, but I at least, he's super into Harry Potter right now, so I can respect it. Like, I'm like, that one works for me. A bandit? Like, that's what I kept saying to him. Like, dude, is there something I'm missing here? Like, are you a specific character from something that I don't know about? And he was like, no, I'm just like a robber.
It's funny because, like, when you say that, I was so happy when my kids picked something easy.
Well, yeah,
like,
sure.
That would be the easiest one. Just dress them up like the Hamburglar.
That's all it is. And I kept thinking there's got to be something. This has got to be like a specific someone from a Marvel show or something like that. Nope. Just a generic ass robber. That's what he wanted to be. Lame.
Well, you asked me what was going on with me. Did you know I was in the hospital last week?
No, I didn't know you were in the hospital. What are you doing to yourself?
So I thought, well, it's interesting because now, like, I have over the next 2 weeks, I probably have like 6 or 7 doctor's appointments from getting the CPAP for my sleep apnea that I found out through the sleep study I did 2 weeks ago.
I was really hoping that you were going to say something like, as it turns out, I'm allergic to tripes, so thanks a lot, a-hole. You nearly killed me.
No, I'm just allergic to whatever the hell it was. I'm trying to remember which one I didn't like. I think it was the blood sausage I didn't know.
Well, there was nothing there.
Anyway, but no, so I was having all kinds of stomach pains, and honestly, this is the best part of it, I thought I was constipated. So clearly when I came home on Monday, my wife goes out and gets one of everything. So, like, suppository, check. Had that done, and that was fun. Giving myself a home enema, check.
Hell yeah.
And the best part was I squeezed the bottle a little bit to make sure there was no, like, plastic covering inside because the top of the bottle is lubed. It's lubed.
Oh.
So I squeezed it, and I must have squeezed out just enough oxygen in the bottle or air in the bottle that when I pushed it in, I couldn't squeeze it.
Oh, God.
So then I had to take it out and then put it back in again and do it. And the best part about all of this is I wasn't constipated. I have diverticulitis.
Oh,
so,
wait, what? You have diverticulitis?
So it sucks.
Well, hang on a second, though. I feel like you're going to lose some weight here. That could be a win.
Well, it could help me out in the long run. No, but like I got to change up my diet. I can't eat nuts, seeds, popcorn anymore.
That's it. I'm not coming over anymore.
I can't eat no more of your nuts, man. But no, for people that don't understand, like it's a pocket in your intestines where food can get trapped, and the food you don't digest is the easiest thing to get trapped in there. So that's why all those things I just mentioned, your body doesn't digest them. So if it gets caught in there, I don't want to go through the pain I went through because it was 3 days.
Jesus.
Well, it was 2 days of not eating. So because my belly was like, it looked like somebody injected me with air, and it was just all the way out.
Dude, I'm sorry. That sucks, man. That sucks.
Other than that, everything's great.
I think Brock Lesnar came back from diverticulitis, though, and, won the WWE Championship. So keep that in mind.
That was my goal, is if I could be the second guy to come back and win the WWE Championship.
You could end the Undertaker streak. You got to keep that in mind when you talk about this. I can't believe I feel terrible because you sent me that text last week and you said, hey, could you come over and help me out with something? If you had just said, I need an enema, I would have been there, man.
I'm so angry at myself that I don't choose the best options. I'm like, this will be fine. Just give it to myself. And then there's no, I don't want to say better. There's no, I guess it's one of the most odd feelings you can have, squeezing water in your ass or liquid up there. It's not a fun thing.
I'm
Maybe
sorry,
I should have called Griffin. Griffin could have helped.
Yeah, right. That's actually, I believe, in his job description. In fact, when we hired him, we said,
"Help me produce poo."
Yeah, that's the way that it works. All right, well, God damn, man.
Yeah, again, it's not the end of the world. They found it early. It's not like I don't have to get a colostomy bag or anything. But if I don't follow the diet and what I'm supposed to eat, I could end up back there, and I could end up with a colostomy bag. Fun times.
What the hell is going on around here?
I'm just falling apart, man. Just
really, it's really bad, dude. It's really bad.
I feel like the guy that's it's only a flesh wound. Like I'm missing my arms, my legs, everything else.
Just
it's great.
I got this. All right, Big Bag Morning Show, of course, on 105.7 The Fan, and ConcreteLocks.com with 2 N's, ConcreteLocks.com. Love you, buddy. We'll talk to you next Monday. Please don't die in the meantime.
I'll try not to. Thanks, guys.
Jeremy Conn with us every Monday here on GCR. Jesus. Diverticulitis. Christ. It was Brock, right, that had diverticulitis?
You would know better than I would.
I could. Well, you're at UFC.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right.
What are you talking about? You
yeah, but once he was done at the UFC.
Oh, then you were. Well, but for years the assumption was that he was always coming back.
I think I spelled it right on the first try too.
In November, it was 2009 that he had diverticulitis.
Okay, yeah.
He was first diagnosed with diverticulitis in late 2009.
Also mono.
Yeah, I don't think that one was as concerning as the diverticulitis. I'm pretty sure.
It can be serious.
It can, but I'm pretty sure the diverticulitis is more concerning than the mononucleosis, I think, on the list of concerns. Yikes.
Maybe it made him stronger, I guess.
Maybe it did. All right.
That's what made him stronger.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it was a dreadful week in picks. There's no way around it. Maryland got thumped by Minnesota. Maryland's down 2 now. They got to win 2 of their final 4 in order to try to get bowl eligible. They do have a bye this week. It don't look likely, but the schedule looks like this. They're at Oregon. Well, that's probably not happening. Yeah, I guess you never know. Then they're home for Rutgers. And while that has always been a win when you've looked at the schedule, Rutgers is at least competent at this point. They have lost to teams that they should have beat at home this season. But if they're going to get there, it probably involves that one. And if they win it, it probably comes down to a home game against Iowa the following week. Now, the last time Maryland played Iowa at home, they lost by 1,000.
They have Iowa before Rutgers, right? Or
no,
is it?
Rutgers. I know, because they always have played Rutgers like the weekend after Thanksgiving every season. That is not the case this year. It's Rutgers on the 16th and then Iowa on the 23rd.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then
checks out.
They finish up the season on the road at Penn State.
So there's another one that they could win.
Yeah, sure.
They got to play the game.
It comes down to they got to win their 2 home games if they're going to get bowl eligible. I don't feel great about it. Like, they had gone out and figured out a way to beat Minnesota, then I would have felt very good about their chances. losing that game, I don't feel great about their chances of getting bowl eligible, but they do still have 2 winnable games on the schedule. I don't know. I don't even know if they'll be favored in those games, honestly. Like, it's just sort of where we are. Rutgers is also sitting at 4-4, and they've kind of fallen apart in recent weeks. They've lost 4 straight after a 4-0 start, but that still doesn't make me comfortable in that one. And Iowa, who earlier this year actually scored some points, and like a couple of us were like, "Oh, this is kind of an un-Iowa-like season that they're having."
Yesterday, Saturday.
Yeah, and against the team that Maryland lost to. So that's the damning part. They've actually scored 40 twice this season because they scored 40 against Washington as well.
And against Illinois State.
That's true. They scored 43 times this year.
38 against Troy.
That's what the season's going to come down to is can you figure out a way to beat Iowa at home, it looks like. I mean, again, you got to beat Rutgers first in order for the season to come down to that. But I don't think they'll be favored in that game, and I don't like their chances. But if you're going to get bowl eligible, and that'll be the game. I think we're doing A.J. Francis's annual food drive that day. So please, if you're headed down to College Park that day, make plans to have your non-perishables for the annual A.J. Francis food drive against Iowa. Yeah, Maryland got their butts kicked. They were never in it. They were down 24-0. It was brutal. Andrew Stecca, Griffin, James Revere, Joe Serpico, John Proctor, Casey, and Ryan were all on Minnesota.
Why did you pick Maryland?
I don't even know why. I think it was just for the bit. I think it was just why I know Ken's picking Minnesota, so maybe I'll pick Maryland. I don't know why I picked Maryland in that game. I was, however, on Vandy, which was my one win all weekend.
You're 1-1.
Yeah, I was one. Well, I lost the Thursday night game at that point too.
Yeah,
I think it was 1-3 at that point, and still thinking like maybe I could salvage the weekend. At least I could go 4-5 and not lose that much. Nope. Yeah, Vanderbilt. In fact, stay within a score of Texas. Moderately.
I mean, we think
moderately
Texas
good
is a good team, so.
Yeah. Texas was favored by 18.5. They didn't even come close to covering that. I was on Vanderbilt. So was Griffin. So was Joe Serpico. That was it. Only the 3 of us. Navy decided to pick a hell of a week to not want to hold on to the football. And look, they got thumped. But it's very difficult to figure out how much of that was about Notre Dame's that much better than they are and how much of that was about, like, you don't hold on. You give the football away, was it 4 times? 5 times? 5, 4? I can't remember if it was 4 or 5 now.
Too many.
Yeah, well, obviously it was too many. Then this is what's going to happen. They obviously got blown out by Notre Dame, who covered the 13.5 easily. James, Jeremy, Joe, Ken Zales, and Ryan Shell were all on Notre Dame. Only Kyle Ottenheimer was on the Rams on Thursday night and was the second Lone Wolf winner of the season. Congratulations to Kyle as the Rams, were aided by an awful call, but at that point they were already up by 8. Yeah. It was still gonna require
plus 11.
A very specific set of circumstances for Minnesota they were gonna have to go down, score, get the 2-point conversion, and then score a touchdown on the first drive or of overtime to have a chance at covering. I guess there could have been a push had they won on a field goal in overtime, but it is what it is. Philadelphia rocks Cincinnati, so I'm going to have to take back all of my I still believe in Cincinnati stuff. Like
it was like tied at half, I think.
Was it still tied at half?
Yeah, was it 17? It was 17-17 at some point,
okay.
And
then it was just a bludgeoning.
Eagles.
And this goes back to the I keep defaulting to I think it's better to have the offenses, but in the same way the Ravens are being reminded that the defense has still got to be better than it is. The Bengals defense was a question coming into the season and is damn near sinking them at this point. On the Eagles were Andrew Stecca, Griffin, James, Joe, Ken, Kyle, and Ryan Shell. No one, an offer social on Houston covering. The line was 5, and it was an anti-social. Indianapolis didn't win. Anthony Richardson went ahead and pulled himself out of the game. It is confirmed a torn ACL for Stephon Diggs.
Oh, it is. Oh.
So, that will impact. I'm going to do power rankings. I don't think I can drop Like my rule for when I do like power rankings for press boxes, I don't drop a team that wins. I don't
covered, though.
Raise a team that loses. I just don't do that. But it's tough now for Houston. Like that's a tough scene. Stephon Diggs torn ACL, but they do win. They just don't cover.
Sheep slaughter.
Yeah. Go figure out the Buffalo. I couldn't believe how many people were on Buffalo. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, am I watching the same thing? Buffalo's not all that good. And here, Seattle just went to Atlanta on the road last week, and what am I missing? Well, it turns out,
letdown spot.
Yeah, a huge letdown spot as Seattle gets pounded at home. Most everybody was on Buffalo. Only myself, John Proctor, and Jeremy Conn, bless them, were on Seattle. Thank God. Thought I was in line for that nice push. We all picked, not all of us, but a lot of us picked Chicago because we didn't expect Jaden Daniels to play. He played, but they couldn't score touchdowns.
No.
And they
They
just
had the one called back. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
This weren't scoring touchdowns. And allowed Chicago to stay in it and ultimately go ahead and have a 3-point lead late. And you're just thinking, like, well, ugly as it was, we're going to get that push. If gentlemen won 7 in 1 week for the week, it'll be what it is. At least I won't fall further behind. Oh, what's that now? Tyreek Stevenson deserves every ounce of S that he is getting on the internet right now. That is unfathomable. Unfathomable that you I don't know enough about Tyreek Stevenson to know if he's a helpful football player for them. Like, short of him being an all-pro, I'd almost have to bench him. Like, not cut him, because you're not going to allow him to help another team, but bench him. Say, nah, dude, no matter what, you're not playing next week. We have to make a statement about this. This is as grave a sin as you can commit on a football field. To not be paying attention, to not know that a play is going on, that is as just unfathomable. You all right over there? I don't know what the hell just happened. Griffin might be dying.
Not allowed to sneeze anymore?
No, I don't know. It was more than one sneeze, Griffin. It was like a sneeze attack.
It was 2.
I think it was more than 2.
All right, I'll get better. I'll work on it.
Yeah, please. Yeah, you got to do. You seem like Tyreek Stevenson over there. Just you're not in on the play. Too busy worrying about yourself. Just unbelievable. This guy jawing with fans, having no clue the play has started. I cannot comprehend.
I'm playing it now for
how you walk in to the building today as a Bears player and look that dude in the eyes. Like, that is as little brained as little brain gets. And I get it. Like, guys do stupid things constantly, but whew, that's unreal. Also, by the way, the throw didn't even make it to the end zone. That's the craziest part about this to me. And I'm not trying to suggest that you allow someone to catch the ball and just, like, count on tackling them, because it's only, like, 2 yards short, and so in some bizarro world, like, you could almost fall for it and get into the end zone. But that's only a touchdown because you allowed it to be batted to a guy standing behind, who nobody was bothering to pay attention to. Like, there is very much a conspiracy on both ends here.
I think so. Benjamin Solak actually made a video and, like, talking about how defenses are supposed to defend Hail Marys, and, like, it looks like him being on, like, the backside, he's supposed to be the savior. So he is supposed to be the guy that, like,
right. That's the role. You're supposed to have someone behind the play. You're supposed to have someone on both sides. You're supposed to have somebody in front and behind, because the idea is, with so many guys going up for the ball, the likelihood of it being caught cleanly is slim. So you want to have players available to catch a batted ball on one side or the other. And so the Commanders did everything right.
Yeah.
But the Bears, like, 8 guys all going for the ball at the same time ain't going to help you. They can't all get the ball. I guess it's not 8, it's 7, because I think they had 4 down linemen. or whatever.
Yeah,
it was.
And they ended up having like two guys in front too. Like Terry McLaurin was doubled. And so there's no one back deep.
Insanity.
What worked out perfectly for.
Yeah, Griffin was on Washington, so big win for him. So was Andrew Stecca, so was John Proctor, and so was Ryan Shell. And then obviously, the Baltimore came up just short, just shy, 13.5 points off. 8.5 point favorites, lost by 5.
So no more taking the Ravens and
not
large
great.
spreads.
Not great. Andrew Stecca was on Cleveland. So was Jeremy Conn. So was John in Little Rock. So was Kyle Ottenheimer and Ryan Shell.
Because John was only picking against the Ravens to jinx.
Oh, right. So now I don't know what he does. We'll have to get that answer from him. So, I was 1-8, but I was only tied for the worst. Paul Valley was also 1-8 for the week. And John Proctor, Jeremy Conn were 2-7. So was John in Little Rock, who went from 7-2 last week to 2-7 this week. So I am back at the bottom of the table, but thankfully only one game behind all of Paul Valley, John Proctor, and Jeremy Conn, despite going 1-8 this week. Ryan Shell is now 46-32 and 5 games clear at the top of the table.
We're coming for him.
It's nuts. What the hell's going on with Ryan Shell? What happened to him? KZ, James, and Griffin
So
now
he's
tied
cheating? Is
for
that what we
second.
think?
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. He went 6-3 this week somehow. Remember, at the top of the table playing for a little bit of cash, at the bottom of the table playing to avoid being the one who's got to come in here, eat the sardine fruitcake, and do all the other Brazilian
Couscous
stuff.
Paulista.
Yeah, sure. Which I might as well go ahead and start
Make your mind up to it.
Yikes. 1-8. Thank God. At one point yesterday, I looked down, and Maryland had gotten their asses kicked, Navy had gotten their asses kicked, the Ravens had just lost. I was going to be 1-8 in picks, and I was losing in all of my fantasy football leagues. I mean, it was shaping up to be the worst football weekend of all time. Towson won, right?
They did. Towson did win.
But
they were underdogs against
But thank God a couple of guys in the late games flipped the script for me. James Cook I had in a couple of leagues, and he went off. Jaden Daniels, it was a sluggish start, but ultimately got a nice 24.4 out of, or 24.2 out of him. Things did turn around for me as the day went on. That Hail Mary, I was going to go into tonight in one league with a 8-point lead, and he was still going to have the Steelers defense, and I was like, oh, no. They're playing the Giants. Instead, I'm up by 16 because of that last Hail Mary, so hopefully that's enough, but it's still the Steelers defense against the Giants. I'm not sure that it's enough. Yuck. And then you and I, I'm up by what, 19?
Yeah, you're going to win. All right, we get it.
Well, hang on a second. It's not over.
It's
not over.
I think it might be.
I still have Russell Wilson. Griffin still has Chris Boswell.
Oh.
So
did forget about, Chris Boswell.
Chris Boswell outscores Russell Wilson tonight by 19.5.
Oh. You're right. I am in it.
You're good. You're good.
If I could break 200 in one league if Malik Neighbors has a good night.
So, very nice.
Yeah,
very nice.
Definitely alive in that one.
All right, slaps to the helmet. Slaps are brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. Griffin, what's going on at Live Casino?
Every time that Baltimore or Washington's football team score touchdowns during home games this season, Live Rewards members will be getting $7 in free slot play. You have to have your Live Rewards card inserted correctly into the slot machine, any slot machine on the floor, and be actively playing. But once that touchdown or those touchdowns score, you will receive your prize. It is valid for slot play only, and every time touchdowns are scored during home games for Baltimore or Washington. Adirondack Mills must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, here we go. I got to tell you that you know how this works. Pick 5 Ravens. 2 must be offensive players. 2 must be defensive players. 5th can be a special teams player, a coach, or another offensive player, another defensive player. I have struggled so mightily because number 1 to me was obvious. And a couple other guys I wanted on the list were obvious, but I didn't want to have them too high on the list. I struggled with the 5th person that made my list, and I'm still not. We'll get to it. My number 5, I hate the fact that he's on the list because he's one of the best players on the field yesterday. But you can't escape the Kyle Hamilton dropping the pick. And it's not. It's one thing if it's a difficult play that you just want him to make. It's another thing that, anyone playing in the NFL has to make that catch every time. Every time. That is a 100 out of 100. There is no difficulty. The ball is thrown right to you. You have to make that catch. And it's not his fault that they lost the game. And if they would have won, Kyle Hamilton would have likely been somewhat high on this list. But if we do 5 plays tomorrow, and I guess we will, it almost certainly will be, if not number 1, it's 1 or 2 on the list. It is unfathomable to not catch that football.
There was no way I was going to be able to put him on the list, even after that. I mean, it was a bad drop, but there were also 18 other drops.
I understand that
also
but,
all should have been called.
But that one was the one. The game is over in that moment.
And he had too good of a game.
He did have a good game, but it doesn't absolve.
45 minutes.
It doesn't absolve of. It's the same thing where, like, if Lamar Jackson plays really well but throws an interception at the end of the game, he doesn't get to avoid the list because of it. It just can't happen.
I went with it's kind of the what's the guy from Clerks?
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Jalen Armour-Davis is my number 5. I mean, it was he played every single snap and it was not good. Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, Cedric Tillman. I mean, these are like rejects of the NFL, and they went for 250 yards. Yeah. Obviously, Jameis threw for almost 350. He was thrown every other down. But I mean, he's not a good corner. He wasn't. He didn't have any pass breakups. He wasn't anywhere near these guys whenever he was in coverage. Stevens could have made the list too, but he was slightly better. It wasn't obviously a bad day passing wise. Jalen Armour-Davis trying to fill in didn't do a very good job.
Gave up 5 hurries, his first sack of the season, and 2 brutal penalties. Ronnie Stanley is number 4 on this list. I mean, Justin Tucker's getting lucky that he's not on this list for me. But it's because of the other guys I wanted to get on there. But Ronnie Stanley, hey man. I think Fa'alele had I think I saw that he gave up maybe 6 quarterback hurries.
Right. That sounds right because I think somebody else did. But
but Ronnie Stanley had a bad day. He had a bad day.
Yeah.
Number 4.
I agree. He's my number 4 as well. It did finally allow a sack. It allowed a good bit of hurries as well. And that false start was 2 plays before what would be a Justin Tucker missed field goal, so 5 yards closer, who knows? Or they even go for it if they, if it's a 3rd and 3 or 4th and 3 instead of 2nd and 8 or whatever, or 3rd and 8 after the false start. So yeah, Ronnie Stanley's my number 4.
Rashad Bateman's number 3. You guys know I love Rashad Bateman, and also I was talking about it. I had a phone call with our buddy Josh Charles last night. I have no doubt that the sun was very much real in that spot. We all saw like the sun coming in. I have no doubt that it was real. But it still happened. Like, that's the problem here. It still happened. And, combined with the earlier drop. The earlier drop to me was almost that ball seemed like it was caught and then thrown. I still haven't been able to figure out what the hell happened there. Brutal. Brutal for a guy that had finally turned the corner to have a day like that. You hope it's just a weird day. You hope that's man. Brutal. Rashad Bateman, number 3.
And it's also like, hopefully Lamar can still trust him, I guess, after that.
Yeah.
It did, he obviously didn't target him again. Obviously, it was late in the game when that happened, but obviously didn't get another target after that. But yeah, Bateman's my number 3 as well. That was a really, really tough watch there on that play.
I had really thought about, when I first wrote out slaps, I had Odafe Owe at number 2 because I just was trying to represent the utter lack of pressure, and it's like more of a global thing with Odafe Owe, where like David Ajabo didn't. To me, the Owe Ajabo trust that this organization drafted those guys very high and has continued to kind of put all of their eggs in that basket. And because Ajabo didn't play and Owe did, and Owe didn't do anything, like it was almost like I wanted to say it's this trust that this organization has shown to 2 guys constantly that is letting them down. But I decided instead to go ahead and make it Zach Orr. And maybe I'm falling into the groupthink trap because the truth is I don't really blame Zach Orr for yesterday because it's the drops, stupid. It's why I can't leave Kyle Hamilton off the list. Like, the drops are criminal when the plays are there to be made. It don't matter what. I cannot let you go. But the pressure is the other thing that's the story of the day. And if you want a fair criticism of Zach Orr, it's that he hasn't figured out a way to scheme pressure. Femi's point, should they have come out more aggressive with their pressure against Jameis Winston, try to rattle him a little bit early on? Probably. That we're still seeing communication issues? What the hell is going on? And none of it is, well, you got to fire the guy. That's insane. But somebody has to be held accountable for the utter lack of pressure. And I ultimately decided to go with Zach Orr instead of Odafe Owe, but Odafe Owe didn't do a damn thing yesterday. And it is alarming that David Ojabo was a healthy scratch. Like, that's alarming. That's about as problematic as it can get for this organization in 2024. Like, this had to involve those two guys stepping forward this season. And for a minute earlier this year, it felt like they were. And here are right back to square one. But I'll let Zach Orr wear it this time.
Yeah, I mean, Owe, Broderick Washington flirted with my list for a moment there. I ended up going with the coordinator on the opposite side. Todd Monken was my number 2. They were not running the ball as much as they should have, and a lot of it goes back to the 4th and 1 play call on the very first drive, where I definitely don't really have too much. I'm not upset with going for it right there, but when you take the ball away from Lamar there and you go with the stupid Wildcat thing that you never run ever. And so you direct snap it to Derrick Henry, and you go nowhere. I mean, it was like when they did this with Mark Ingram. What was it, 3 or 4 years ago on that rainy night in New England, where again you have Lamar Jackson coming off of an MVP year, and you're like, let's not give it to him. They threw it 40 times and they ran it 20 times. Like they got completely off balance. Everything felt off offensively, as bad as the defense did play.
Yeah, I disagree that it felt off. It didn't feel off.
Whenever they
it just didn't seem like
they went, because they only punted 3 or 4 times, but every time they punted, it was a 3 and out. Like they were just they did not have anything going for 3-4 drives specifically, and.
Yeah, I mean that's football. That happens. To suggest that means they were up. I don't think it was congruent, but they weren't entirely off yesterday. I mean, there are teams. Go watch the league. There are teams that can't do a thing offensively. Those teams are entirely off. That wasn't the case. It just seems. I think what's fair is it seemed unnecessary, and it didn't seem like the best game plan for facing the Browns. Now, specifically, the Browns' strength is right in the middle, right? So I can understand if part of the thought process is we want to stay away from right in the middle. Fine, get it. But you can be more creative than that in figuring out ways to run the ball. There are warranted criticisms, I think, yesterday, and I will never absolve the 4th down call was asinine. I mean, asinine. Like, absolutely batshit. That you would ever take the ball out of the best player in the NFL's hands. Ever. Under any circumstances. You don't do that on 4th and 1. You don't do that on 2nd and 2. Ever. Signing up for taking the ball out of the hands of the best player in the NFL is the biggest gift that you can ever give to an opposing defense. We have the greatest threat that maybe has ever existed in football, but I tell you what, for this one, we'll let you guys play without that. Absolute insanity. I genuinely don't have the words. I'd be like the Bulls taking Michael Jordan off the floor when the game was on the line. Hey, we could put. How about you guys see what you can do against Kukoc instead?
Poor Tony Kukoc.
Christ. There will be things that we could dissect for years, and you'll never be able to justify that decision. And I have no doubt that, well, we saw this thing on effing cares? The moment you put Derrick Henry in the Wildcat, you are nullifying the best thing any football team has going for you. Any team. A lot of people are screaming about lining up Charlie Kolar under center for the tush push. You're not going to get me to agree with you on that. I'm sorry. I'm out. You want to beat him up on that? I'll beat him up on that. And maybe you can go back and say, hey, that was more of like a legitimate yard than it was like.
It was also 3rd and 1, so they could have just, ran it back to back.
Yes.
They're going to get it.
Every time that you need to get less than a yard, you should be able to have somebody that you line up. The tush push works far too well for me to be angry about that. Now, what happened, happened. And I'll beat up Charlie Kolar over that, but I ain't beating him up over the play call. I'm not. The tush push works too frequently and too often for me to suddenly say you should take that out of your and if that's what they had lined up with the other time, I would have felt better about that. Snapping the ball 5 yards in a shotgun. Get the entire hell out of here. I mean, insanity. Eddie Jackson's number 1. It's what it is. There's no way around it. Eddie Jackson's number 1. It sucks. Eddie Jackson's number 1.
He is number 1.
Yeah, that's the way that it goes. We'll get him up at glennclarkradio.com, and you can get us yours at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. Somebody who gets in will receive that $50 gift card to the Costas Inn. What you got for tidbits?
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
No, that is the feeling. Nailed it. Nailed it.
Yeah.
10, 12 minutes later.
Tidbit-wise, where do we want to go tidbit-wise? We talked about Freddie Freeman's big ol' walk-off grand slam on Friday night to win Game 1. And, there's a lot of different stats we can start here. So a 2-out walk-off home run while trailing in the World Series, only the 3rd time that it has ever been done. Other time was, or the first time, I guess.
I think I might have seen it, and I've already forgotten who it was.
Oh, sorry, no, it's happened twice. Did I say 3 times? I might have said 3 times. But anyway, it's only happened twice in the World Series. A 2-out walk-off home run while trailing.
So
go ahead, walk off.
The other one was Joe Carter?
No, it was the Kirk Gibson.
That was the only other one?
That's the only one that happened in the World Series. Only other time it happened in the postseason was Game 1 of the ALDS 2022. Jordan Alvarez.
Okay.
Hit a walk-off. And how many walk-off grand slams have been hit in the World Series history?
2.
Now 1.
Okay.
That was the first one. 250 walk-off grand slams. And all time, actually. Over 250 walk-off grand slams all time. Only one walk-off grand slam had even happened in the postseason before that. It was Nelson Cruz in 2011 in the ALCS.
I don't remember that.
With the Rangers. But yeah, those
which kind of speaks to like as memorable as a moment as it felt like in that moment. Within 10 years, I might have forgotten about this too.
I guess that's true.
Like,
unless you're a Dodgers fan.
You remember things that like won the World Series. Like I'll remember Luis Gonzalez for forever. I'll remember Joe Carter for forever. You remember
David Freese? Like
I don't remember. I remember him having a huge postseason. I don't remember any actual.
Maybe it's because I was like a little kid and that was.
I mean, I remember he had a bonkers World Series. I don't remember any.
He hit the game tying triple, and then hit the walk off homer in Game 6.
Okay.
And then forced Game 7, and the Cardinals eventually won.
Sure, I believe
the
you.
Rangers in 2011.
I believe you.
It was one of the best World Series I can remember.
I do remember it was that was the zombie Cardinals. I remember you just couldn't kill them. I just don't remember any particular.
Yesterday, the Detroit Lions, they scored 50 points on fewer than 100 pass yards. Only the 3rd team to do this since 1950. Last team to do it was 50 points on less than 100 yards passing.
How the hell would I know this?
The 1955 Chicago Bears.
Ah, yes. The 55 Bears.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So, the Lions. Then the 1950 Giants also on this list. 55 points off of less than 100 yards passing. The Hail Mary yesterday, that was the first time. It was the first game that we had go-ahead touchdowns scored in the final 30 seconds by both teams since 1977.
Okay.
Which, of course, you remember.
Oh, yeah. That was the Raiders.
It was the Bears and the Chiefs. Close. Yeah. Chiefs, or the Chiefs lost to the Bears 28-27 back on November 13th, 1977. All right, and then finally, we will see him this weekend in Baltimore. Bo Nix had a nice game going. He had 3 touchdowns.
Everybody's having a nice game when they get to face the Panthers.
That's true, but Bo Nix is on this joins a list, though, a very exclusive company. 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, also no interceptions. He is just the 18th rookie to even have 3 touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown in a game. Can you name He is the 9th to do it on this side of 2000. Can you name the other 8 that have done it since 2000?
Give me the numbers one more time.
3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, rookie quarterback.
Andrew Luck.
No Andrew Luck.
Lamar.
Lamar did not do
Yeah, I
this
mean, he
as a
didn't
rookie.
throw
Yeah,
that
didn't
much
do.
as a rookie. Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson is on the list, yes. 2017.
Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert, the only rookie quarterback to do this twice. 2 such games of 3 touchdowns and 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. But it happened in 2020, so do we...
Yeah, it's true. That's not real. How about Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts is on the list, also 2020.
Doesn't count, man. How about...
There's actually another quarterback that did it in 2020.
Holy S. That's how you know that nothing... It didn't matter. It wasn't real. I was going to say Cam Newton next.
Cam Newton is on the list, though.
Okay.
2011, Cam Newton.
Who else was 2020 rookies? Is that Tua?
Tua was a rookie, but no, he did not do this.
Burrow?
Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Also did this.
Don't think of him with rushing touchdowns, but all you got to do is fall forward for a yard. Who else?
3.
Who else? RG3?
No RG3.
It's right. I'm trying to go with mobile quarterbacks, get the rushing TD, but like it could be more Joe Burrow. It could be Matt Ryan.
Not Matt Ryan. We have the years.
C.J. Stroud.
Not C.J. Stroud.
Okay, sure. Give me the years.
2002.
2000. God, who are the rookies in 2002? I don't remember who was a rookie in 2002. What team?
All right, he was a St. Louis Ram. St. Louis Ram.
Bulger?
Was Mark Bulger.
Okay.
3 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown.
Why was he playing? I guess did Warner?
Yeah, Kurt was gone. Was Kurt not gone?
Was he
Kurt
gone in 2002? That would have been no. They were just in the Super Bowl the year before. It's not Jim Nance, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I think it's Dan Wilcox.
Oh, love Dan. That's my guy. Yeah.
I think he didn't mean to.
There's a chance that Jim Nance is gonna check in with he's doing the game again this week, so they've got the hotline and they just sort of didn't know when it was gonna be, and I was like, that'd be fun.
All right, and then also Mark Bulger and 2015, 2018 rookies. The last 2 on this list.
2018? Okay, well I should be able to get those, right? 2018 was Baker Mayfield?
Not Baker.
Josh Allen.
Okay. And then 15.
2015. 2015. That would be, God, who was 2015? Jameis?
Not Jameis.
But he was 2015?
He was, yeah. So who went after Jameis?
God. Was that Mariota?
It was Mariota, yes. Mariota in 2015 had one of these games. Stud rookies.
Yeah, all of them. Every single one. All right.
That's a solid list.
Yeah, Mariota. All right. Very good. Let's get tubular. This is nailed it.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. Giants Steelers, 8:15 on both ESPN and ABC, and a Manning Cast on ESPN2. Game 3 of the World Series, 8:00. Wouldn't they want to play this game at 7 o'clock to try to take advantage of the hour before the football game starts?
I mean, I would, yeah.
I guess West Coast, though, that's what makes it difficult. The Dodgers, I don't know. 8:08 tonight for Game 3 of the World Series.
Should everyone just be taking this week off out there?
Yeah, right.
The
Fox. Walker Buehler goes to the Dodgers.
Half
Clark
days.
Schmidt for the Yankees. Wizards Hawks at 7:30. The Wizards almost covered once. So
Did they? Did they almost though?
they almost covered against the Celtics. I think the line was 18 and a half, and they only lost by 20. So it's pretty
I thought
good.
It was 13 and a half actually.
Oh, was it? I
Yeah,
thought you said
yeah,
it was something crazier than that.
No, I thought, or maybe it was 14 or something. I don't know. But
Well,
they were like kind of close at halftime.
Yeah. And then who did they lose to the other night?
Who cares?
You know,
Cavs. I think they
couldn't
lost
have
to the
said it better.
Cavs.
Yeah, they did. They
there
did.
was the-
Wizards Hawks 7:30 on Monumental. NBA TV Bucks Celtics 7:30. Lakers Suns at 10. ESPN Plus and Hulu for Preds Lightning at 7:30.
Whatever one game I decide to go to this season, that's the game I'll care.
I mean, there better be a good opponent.
It's usually not.
Why?
Because very very cheap. You just when schedules
Yes, but
match.
it's cheap because it's not worth going to.
Well, when they're playing the Magic or something,
Jesus. MLS playoffs tonight on FS1. NYCFC against FC Cincinnati at 6:45. Houston Dynamo, Seattle Sounders at 9. The USA Network for WWE Monday Night Raw at 8. Non-sports.
Non-sports wise, we got our boys Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long will be on Jimmy Kimmel tonight.
Oh hell yeah! Promoting the election?
No, Fox NFL Sunday.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make a lick of sense. They can promote that
Papa's House, of course.
that show that you told me to watch last week that I've already forgotten about that I was going to watch. Oh no, they could. What the hell?
No, Zodiac. The
that's
Zodiac attack
probably what it
they're
is.
doing. Big Fallon show tonight. Reba will be on
Hell
Fallon.
yeah!
She
has a new show coming out.
Yes, Happy's Place. She's also on The Voice. She's Mrs. NBC now.
Oh, got it.
And but also, AJ, Big Justice, and the Rizzler, all on Fallon tonight. Big show.
What?
After
I'm
Monday
so the
Night Football,
Rizzler's something on the internet. I know.
Yeah. Well, the Costco
I don't know
guys.
what it
They're
is.
the Costco guys.
Oh, these are the
AJ,
We Bring the Boom.
Yeah. AJ, Big Justice, the Rizzler.
You know what?
All three of them
We deserve
in-
everything we have as a country.
on one stage.
We deserve everything that we have as a country.
Pretty exciting, if I do say so
yeah,
myself.
that seems like something. If somebody
I'll
ever
probably
wants
be-
to,
after Monday Night Football, I'll be
ever
switching over
wants to take a picture of how dystopian we've become as a country, like it's the Jimmy Fallon show with those people. That's what's happened to us as a society.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, of course.
I don't
Of
think
course
there's
you
anything
don't.
wrong with it. I know episode of What We Do in the Shadows as well.
I do. That's actually good. That's weird. You
Well, I
shared
got
something
great news.
that's
at 10.
objectively
so then
good.
Fallon's at 11:30. You can go right from What We Do in the Shadows to
Thanks today
the
to
Costco guy.
Yeah, thanks to Joe Fortenbaugh from ESPN. Thanks to Dan Wilcox, to Femi, to Jeremy Conn. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Had an entire weekend. Came up with nothing.
I thought that was a good one.
Nothing.
Like when we.
Tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow on the program, Joe Serpico obviously will get us ready for Waiver Wire Wednesday and Stuff and Things.
Yeah,
Stuff and Things on the program tomorrow. I guess we're going to try to do 5 plays. We'll see how this goes. I don't know. Griffin was insistent upon bringing this back. I thought I had buried it. It was dead.
Well, you kept
gone.
mentioning it, and I was like, yes.
Dead and gone.
Maybe we should do it.
We'll see what we do with that. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, Cruise Maryland, Crown Trophy, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, the Costa Sin, MSA, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday evening. Go not the Steelers. Go not the Yankees. Duke sucks.